I call this May 13th, 2019 meeting of the Morrisville Town Council to order. Thank you to those here in person with us tonight, those watching via live stream, and those who are watching the recording of this meeting sometime in the future. Our town mission statement, which helps guide our decisions tonight and into the future, is connecting our diverse community to an enhanced quality of life through innovative programs and services. Please silence all cell phones while in council chambers. First, I'd like to recognize our Sergeant-at-Arms. As you can see to my left, this is not actually Master Officer Laurie Strickland listed on your agenda. Our Sergeant-at-Arms tonight is Officer Chad Penland. He is one of the newest members of the Morrisville Police Department. He has served as police officer and all the way up to police lieutenant during his 18 years of sworn law enforcement service. Officer Penland has been employed full-time in law enforcement since he was 18 years of age, at which time he worked in an emergency communications center where he started his law enforcement career. He was the youngest full-time law enforcement communicator in the state of North Carolina until he turned 21 years of age. Thank you for being here with us tonight, sir. Tonight's invocation will be given by Steve Rao.
Thank you, Mayor. Please bow our heads in prayer. Dear God, today we come together in the town of Morrisville, one of the most innovative and inclusive communities in our state and nation, to pray that you give our council, staff, and engaged citizens the strength and wisdom to lead a town where our citizens can live connected and live well. We pray this evening for the victims of gun violence in our mosques, temples, synagogues, churches, schools, with the most recent event taking place last week in Highland Ranch School in Colorado. We pray that you give our nation the strength to stand up to hate, to violence, to political division and bitterness, and that you remind each of us that our true power is your light, which exists within each of us. This power, this light, can always lift us out of the darkness, and it is in our hearts that can be it is our hearts that can enable us to truly love more. Our hearts will always lead us in the right direction as our true GPS, and we can connect more and build bridges with each other, which is so very needed in our nation and world at this time. Nowhere is this light of hope more evident than in our police, firefighters, first responders, and American soldiers, who are an everlasting reminder that we do not need to read Marvel comics or watch a Marvel movie to see true superheroes in action. They live among us. We pray this evening for light. We pray for hope. We pray for peace. Amen.
Amen. All who are able, please stand and join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we adopt tonight's agenda, Town Council policy is to review and ensure there are no conflicts of interest or appearance of conflict of interest with any item on the agenda. Does any council member have such a conflict? Okay. Seeing none, I entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
I move. Sorry.
Agenda, sir?
A second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none? Okay, that passes 5-0, which gives me a moment to say that to my left, Mayor Pro Tem Vicky Stroggins-Johnson is not with us tonight, but Councilmember Liz Johnson is participating with us on the phone, so she'll be participating in discussions, but she doesn't get to vote from remote. So that passed unanimously 5-0. We have 3 items on the consent agenda this evening: a resolution approving NCDOT municipal agreement for Lewis Stevens Road betterments, a resolution approving the award of FY 2019 paving project number 1, and a capital project budget ordinance amendment for the Morrisville Healthy Food Hub Phase 2. Would any council member like to remove any of those 3 items for discussion during action items? Councilmember Schwenk.
I'd like to remove 6A and 6B, please.
Okay. So we'll be moving those to item number 8, item 9, action items. We'll do it after 9A at that time. 6B. So I'd entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda with those 2 items removed.
I make a motion that we adopt this evening's agenda to move those 2 items from the consent agenda to item 8.
Second.
All those in favor of moving those, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So those are moved. Now I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda item number 6C. this time, we can go ahead and
Move to approve consent agenda item 6C, capital project budget ordinance amendment for Morrisville Healthy Food Hub.
Second.
all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously 5-0 as well. We have 4 presentations this evening. The first is a proclamation recognizing Building Safety Month. I'll invite Shandy Paget, Inspector Director and Inspection Staff, to the podium to receive the proclamation, please. I know. Everything that we need done to keep us all safe. Inside. For ourselves. I'll let you. Sorry? Yeah, it's usually not. This is great. We appreciate you being here. Proclamation recognizing Building Safety Month. Whereas the town of Morrisville is committed to recognizing our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster. And whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, permit technicians, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas in 2018, the town of Morrisville Inspections Department issued 1,040 building permits, conducted 9,841 inspections, and completed 794 hours of training. And whereas our state has adopted modern building codes that include safeguards to protect the public from natural disasters such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildfires, floods, and earthquakes, and I'll add hail, we had some of that today. Whereas Building Safety Month is an opportunity to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown guardians of public safety, our local code officials and permit technicians who assure us of safe, efficient, and livable buildings. And whereas Building Safety Month encourages appropriate steps everyone can take to ensure the safety of our built environment, recognizes that the implementation of safety codes by local and state agencies has saved lives and protected homes and businesses. And whereas the town of Morrisville is committed to improving building safety and economic investment in homes and in the community, and acknowledges the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention divisions, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now therefore, I, TJ Gawley, Mayor of Morrisville, and the Town Council of the Town of Morrisville, do hereby recognize the month of May 2019 as Building Safety Month in the Town of Morrisville, North Carolina. A little applause. If you'd like to introduce your team and say a few words, and I'll shake everyone's hand.
We have Inspector Greg McDaniel, J.P. Morgan, Permit Techs Diane Boyd, and Jill Smith. Jill. Jill Meyer. I do want to say thank you to these folks because them, along with our other inspectors, they're the ones who are doing all the work behind the scenes, processing these applications, getting your questions answered, and getting our inspections done and the door. So thank you so much for all that you do. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. I'll ask Rodney Watkins, our GIS Director, to come on up for this next proclamation. It's nice to see you. So this one really counts. This is recognizing Census Day. Whereas the United States Constitution mandates that a census be conducted of the nation's population every 10 years, the next census scheduled on April 1st, 2020. And whereas census counts are used by the state of North Carolina to determine the allocation of state and federal funds for resources such as schools, human services, and healthcare. And whereas the county and municipalities use census information to plan, allocate funds, determine location of police, fire departments, and for many other projects. And whereas census data guides local important community planning efforts, including where to build new roads, hospitals, and schools. And whereas the town of Morrisville is an active and committed part of the Wake County community, which is a partner in the 2020 census, and whereas the town of Morrisville hereby does agree to participate in the Wake County Census 2020 Complete Count Committee and will develop outreach activities designed to meet the needs of all residents and to reach those considered hard to count, and will encourage every resident to accurately complete the census questionnaire online, over the phone, or return it by mail. Now therefore I, TJ Colley, Mayor of Morrisville, on behalf of the Town Council and residents of Morrisville, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, April 1st, 2020 as Census Day, and urge citizens to participate in this important effort by completing the necessary questionnaire. Thank you very much for helping us lead that effort. Would you like to say a few words about your job, how important it is, all that?
Proclamation says it all, but we are going to have a census table at the Spring Fest weekend. So,
Will they just be getting information, or can they actually complete the census at this time?
no, census doesn't start until next year, first. But we're starting to push for getting people aware of the census. We will have a prize wheel and some prizes, shirts, pens, and water bottles.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Our next presentation is an ERP system replacement update. I'll invite Nancy Emsley, Finance Director, and other ERP project management team members to the podium for the update. Ms. Emsley.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening to all. We recently met with the Town Council ERP Subcommittee and incorporated their feedback into tonight's presentation. If you recall, we had a train theme or a train motif as part of this project. And we've had 3 different trains going down different tracks that left the Morrisville station, the Munis Financials, the Energov train, and also the Munis HR and payroll trains. And we're going to give you an update tonight on all 3 of those ERP projects. So if you recall, we went live with our financials in December. It was a phased-in project. These six modules that you see were the ones that we got up and running first. The one I'd like to just expand on a little bit was the general ledger and the chart of accounts. That was a very daunting task. We had to map our numbers from our legacy system to the new numbers into Munis. And so this gave us the opportunity to really look at our chart of accounts and come up with a really good naming convention. And I'm really pleased in the process that we went through. It took about 3 months just to go through the chart of accounts and get that ready, because that really was the foundation that we had to build upon. And we built upon the remaining modules that you see there to get them up and running for use and for us to be able to go live in December. And we also, sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my pointer here. We transitioned from our legacy system. I just wanted to share with you some highlights. These were all things that we needed to do as part of the process. It was a team effort. It required a lot of hard work and a lot of time, but it was a very successful transition. And this just gives you a context of how hard we had to work to get to where we are. Now, as I mentioned, it is a phased project, and the train is nearing the station, so to speak, where we expect to be completing these remaining 4 modules in June. And so I'm excited that we're reaching our destination soon. But also, we're going to kick off a new module. We just initiated that this month in May, where we'll be adding a project and grants accounting module. And this will basically build off on that chart of accounts that we created. An example of some of the things that we can do with this project and grant accounting module is that we could actually track things such as Springfest, be able to see the costs associated with that, the revenues associated with that. and also be able to track grants as well. For example, the power bills. So very excited that we'll be able to have this module to help us with even better financial analytics. So we really are on time. Our timeline is on track with our Munis financials, and we are really looking forward to when we reach our final destination. Again, we'll gain some efficiencies from our Munis financials. We'll actually be seeing transactions in real time, and staff will be able to do away with the Excel spreadsheets that they've been tracking their expenses on. So very exciting times for us are ahead. Now, I mentioned we have the EnerGov train that's been heading down the track too, and you'll see a new face here with us on our project management team. Rodney was initially involved way back when we were doing our assessments and was looking at our demos and helped us to make that decision, and he has been a key member of the EnerGov team as we've been moving forward. And Munis is much more transactional focused versus EnerGov is much more of a workflow focus. So we identified the need that we really needed to have someone with GIS-based, because EnerGov is a GIS-based program, and we really needed someone with that experience and that functional knowledge. And so with that, it made good logistical sense and logical transition to add Rodney to our team and help us continue to champion the EnerGov project. So with that, I'd like to turn things over to Rodney.
Thank you, Nancy. One of the first things that when I came on was I sat down with each of the department heads and figured out a more reasonable timeline because it looked like, based on where we were, we needed more time. So I won't bore you with all the details of the detailed spreadsheet, but in a nutshell, it came down to establishing some milestones and creating the new adjusted timeline to August 1st, which would be an internal or soft go live, and September 1st, which would be a hard go live, which would mean everything would be available to the public. Essentially, what we're doing with EnerGov is creating a system where the customer would upload applications electronically on the customer self-service site, the CSS, and then plans would be reviewed electronically, processed through a workflow electronically, and then sent correspondence electronically. So essentially taking a giant step away from paper and going more paperless. And all these different departments have various workflows that are separate, but a lot of them are intertwined, so making sure all those workflows will work properly and function the way staff needs them and provide good customer service is a big task. The other key variable is working with the town of Cary and Wake County, the outside municipalities. So again, currently we're in configuration and validation and testing. That'll be an iterative process until we get to the soft go live. Testing from the front end, the CSS, all the way through apps. Because the field workers will have access to apps where, say, code enforcement could enter a code case, tall grass, in the field, not have to note it, come back to the office, take time. It's also the idea is to create efficiencies within the workflow in our town processes. So configuration validation is ongoing, and as we move forward, that configuration becomes, we polish it, fine tune it, and then layer on the automation. When we reach certain parts in a workflow, we want things to be automated emails or notifications sent to applicants or anybody else we want. But as a safety measure, we will be doing parallel entry between the soft go live and the hard go live in August, between August and September, just so we have that, make sure that everything's working, and we will do it, we'll be entering in the legacy system as well as the EnerGov system. So we're on our timeline, we're about where the red dot is, build and validate. It shifts depending on the focus on a particular day, but we're generally in that that location and heading towards the go-live dates of August and September.
Thank you, Rodney. So we have a third train that I mentioned that left the station, and it's the HR and payroll train that's headed now on its own journey down the tracks. So with that, I'd like to kick that over to Chuck, please.
Good evening, everyone. So whereas EnerGov is our direct interface with the public, serves them directly, we have now next phase of Munis, HR and payroll serves our employees directly, but the public indirectly. We're looking again to this system to provide efficiencies and accuracies, good quality assurance for our operations that directly translate into better service to the public. So we kicked this phase off in March, and this is going to involve doing everything that we have in our legacy system as far as employee records, human resources management, payroll management. And what I'd like to really highlight is an exciting module in this. Exciting for a lot of people, might not seem exciting to everyone, but ExecuTime is advanced personnel management, or think of it as advanced time management. So we have police and fire departments who have 28-day schedules, they have a lot of shift changes and other needs like that, and ExecuTime is designed to handle those complexities. All of this, all employees will use this also, and will allow us to online, again, getting rid of paperwork, submit leave requests, look at information about our W-2s or all the information about our own records. So this is really something that we're looking forward to, is adding efficiencies again for employees. Currently, we're working with our consultant project manager for analyzing what we currently do. Our current state analysis is looking at what we do with our legacy system or outside of it, like spreadsheets as mentioned, and see how we can apply that to Munis in a much more effective way. We are scheduled to go live in January, and that's very feasible, and we're definitely going to stick to that for various compelling reasons. So this shows you our progress right now. We're just starting down the tracks. And now I'm going to share some environment information about our new system. Because it does differ from the legacy system. Our current legacy system resides here at Town Hall in our server room. Our new system, though, is hosted by Tyler Technologies, the company that produces EnerGov, Munis, many other programs. So they have two data centers. One is in Falmouth, Maine. The other is in Dallas, Texas. And Munis being in Maine, EnerGov in Texas. But our information is replicated between them. So if either site were to go down for any reason, let's say, for example, the Dallas site goes down, Munis, of course, is still running, and they just have to transition that one system, bring it up within a few minutes to possibly an hour, but lose very little time. So that's a restructuring Tyler did this past year, where all their operations were in Maine and would fail over to Dallas. Now they've split it, so their response can actually be much quicker. And that's all for our presentation, and we'd like to field questions if there's anything you all would like to ask us about.
Okay. Just to confirm, the subcommittee from the council is Councilmember Rao, Councilmember Garamella, and Mayor Pro Tem Scroggins Johnson.
That's
Is that correct?
correct.
I just wanted to identify so everyone recognizes the extra efforts that they're making. Councilmember Rao, you got any questions?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you and the staff for this remarkable achievement. There's been so much heavy lifting that's taken place, and you really have stepped up as a team. So I just want the public, and I think the staff and the council knows how hard you've worked, but thank you so much. And I want to thank you for taking some of our recommendations in your presentation. One thing that I'm curious about is, now that we have Rick Ralph and the CIO, he's looking at smart cities and open data and things like that. Would there be opportunities to leverage this platform for some of those things as we move forward? And not that I'm asking for that now, I'm just curious as to how we would leverage this investment for some of those public-facing, citizen-engaging technologies.
Yes, Tyler does offer a transparency module that can be added to Munis. That was thought of early on in this, and that was part of our initial quote. It's not a module we've purchased yet, but I believe that locked the price in for us, correct?
It did for 3 years.
So yes, so that is something that would provide analytical data on the website to the public. So that's one thing I can think of off the top of my head, and certainly there might be other possibilities we could look into.
Great. Councilmember Schling, please.
Thank you. And I think in previous updates we had, is Wake County also using this system or some local governments?
Energov, yes.
Yeah, Wake County is using the Energov, but we do have many jurisdictions that use the Munis Financials. It's one of the number one financial systems for the state of North Carolina.
Great. So the rollout for them, is it similar? I mean, I know it's much larger, obviously, but have they gone through it? Are they ahead of us, behind us, or I'm just...
You want to speak to that, Rodney?
Compares to.
Are you referring to Wake County Energov rollout?
Yeah.
They're ahead of us. They've already launched it. They are using it, are using most components of it. It took them 3 years, though. So I do know the city of Raleigh is also in the process of trying to implement Energov. I'm not sure where they're at.
Yeah, great. Then is there any crossover that we can coordinate with them to say, hey, these are the problems we had, it might affect you, or, just help us in general?
We have. I don't believe we've done that with the city of Raleigh, but we have reached out to Wake County and coordinated some of that with them, yes.
And parking tickets, can they handle parking tickets right now when you brought up some of the earlier slides, or is that different?
I don't believe so. I think that's different.
Will that fall under this in the future?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, fees. I mean, when you had a slide earlier on, you talked about fees that they can pay and stuff. I just wondered if it make it easier on the public so that they can go in and. Okay.
As it relates to Energov, yes. Any application, sign permit, plan review they'll be able to pay that all online. Permit fees, everything.
Got it. Okay, that's what I was referring to.
Yes. All that, we want to move away from people walking in and paying at the counter. It'd be great to offer that up, and they'll be able to pay through this customer self-service portal, the CSS site.
And we'll do that for the aquatic center also?
That's a different program.
Our Parks and Rec.
You want to speak to that? Okay.
Yeah, that's a separate initiative that's going on right now. It's called ActiveNet, which is replacing the current legacy system RecTrack. So we've actually done some work with them between the Munis and the Active team over at Parks to get the integration going between the two. And they're set to go live, I believe, in July.
July 1 target.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Garamella, please.
Congratulations to Nancy and your entire team. All these trains are in the steps in the right direction and are going great. It's very important that we roll these out because it's transparent to the community, transparent to us, and we know all the workflows. That is most of the community when they come and put permits, they are calling again and again. I think this will help them to see where they land in the entire plan of actions to be taken, and excellent tracking tool, and it's a smooth flow, and that's exactly where the people are interested to look at, especially the CSS and stuff like that. And really kudos to you and your entire team and Martha for doing it. DR and failover, excellent. Nothing can go wrong with that, with the kind of data centers and everything. Overall, thank you very much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Great. I'd like to echo what's been said. Thank you for all your hard work. When will we hear from you again? What's the next?
We are going to try to stay on our track of quarterly updates for you.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. We'll look forward to that then. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our final presentation this evening is a Springfest update. I'll invite Kathy Jarbo, Communications and Outreach Director, and Lynette Anderson, Marketing and Event Specialist, to the podium for our update. We're going to be stealing some of my thunder. I was going to say some of this stuff in the upcoming events, but you guys take the lead here.
Well, I'd be grateful for you to repeat it too.
Okay.
At the time. I hope you're not busy on Saturday because we're having our signature event, Springfest, this Saturday from 4 until 9 p.m. right here on Town Hall Drive. Although it's Springfest, we're going to have summer-like weather, 87 degrees and sunny right now. knock wood. Lots of planning has gone into this, so just really quick overview. Lynette Anderson is here with me right now. She's our marketing and special events specialist, so she's been really the cog, the oil in the machine on this. So thank you in front of everyone for all your hard work. So we are bigger and better this year. We're moving down Town Hall Drive. We're going to be down in between Garden Square Lane and Traybrook. So bigger and better space. We have 11 food trucks. We have 9 inflatables and rides. We have 10 carnival games. Live music almost the entire time from beginning to end. We do expect a pretty large crowd, so we have shuttles that we will be using from Iron Mountain and also Cedar Fork District Park. And those shuttles will start at 3:45 and they'll go till 9:15. This year, another new and exciting change. We have ticket booths that take cash and credit card in every location, so we're super excited about that. We have been promoting this very widely, all the usual spots, but also we've had Indie Week put us in their festival guide. We had an article in 919 magazine. Our new community relations liaison has been connecting with a lot of businesses who have been helping us out on their social media platforms. Apartment complexes have been helping us out on their social media platforms. We expect a big crowd. You will have special parking, town council members, at Cedar Fork Community Center. I have a parking pass for you tonight, and I also have one of our cool t-shirts for you. Can I answer any questions?
In some of the notifications, I've seen that that area of Town Hall Drive will be closed even more than just the time of the event. Can you share with us that it closes, I think, at 7 and will be closed till 11, just so our residents know?
Thank you for bringing that up, Mayor Colley. We will be closing the road from 7 a.m. until 11 p.m. And so we are doing extra effort to share that with the community. The good news this year is that we're not blocking any neighborhoods. All neighborhoods will have access in and out of their property. So, but yes, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
And
more information can be found on our website.
Of course, and there's no rain date, so
there is no rain date.
if people are unsure, check our social media channels.
Correct. Check social media channels, and also we will put information on our weather information hotline as well. So if there is a concern about the weather, public can call our weather information hotline, check our social media platforms, and we'll let you know.
Wonderful. Any questions from the council? Councilmember Schlink.
I know in the past we've had a lot of volunteers, so I'm
Yes.
sure we've had that, and so some of our committees are involved, and I just want to reach out and thank everybody, and I imagine if people still want to volunteer, you'll be happy to work with them.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up. We have 14 town tables. Many of those town tables are town tables that are sharing information such as our Veterans Memorial Project Foundation, the census table. We have the planning, police, fires. We have lots of really good informational tables, and many of them are manned by volunteers. So, and I have to say also, thanks to a tremendous staff assistance, it's going to be a really big show.
Question along the same lines, kind of, I know this, in the past we've had stages, so you'll have like dance groups and local dance, is that right, or just music?
This time we're having straight music from almost the beginning to almost the end.
Okay.
But that's a good point for next year when we have we're going to have hopefully 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock next year, so we'll have a lot more time for entertainment. This year it's straight music. We're 30 through almost the end.
And the music is going to vary from country and western to reggae?
They play it all.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Garamella.
Kathy, one observation from last time was, as you said, it's going to be 87 degrees and it will be hot. And one of my observation was when Rodney said you will be giving out, different T-shirts and all those things. But I would, suggest if the town can give water bottles too, because some people cannot afford it and they run more than 2-3 bottles if they are there for a long time, and that would be a good incentive for them to come to our booths too. Just throwing an idea, because it gets really, really hot, especially with the asphalt and 87 degrees.
It does. Thank you for that suggestion. We appreciate it.
Okay, so food trucks will be accepting cash, credit cards, and
Correct.
You buy tickets at the booths for the carnival rides and the inflatables and things like that.
Correct. Yep. And lots
I'm
of
looking forward
signage.
to it. Lots of
But
signage.
if you have any questions at all, you can come to the Town of Morrisville tent where I will be, and I can help answer all those questions as well.
Great. I think we're all looking forward to that. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thanks.
We're at action item 6A, which was removed from the consent agenda, which is resolution approving NCDOT municipal agreement for Lewis Stevens Road betterments. If Mr. Howell could please come to the dais, and I think we'll start with Councilmember Schlink, who asked to have an opportunity to ask some questions about this.
Yes, I was wondering the betterments, the cost, you think will only cost that much?
Those are the cost estimates that DOT has provided this time based on their norm. And they provide the cost estimates are generally based on about the last 6 months of bids. So hopefully it'll come in a little bit under that, but that is the cost estimate we have at this time.
That's going to cover the two, I'm assuming you're going to have a crosswalk at Parkside Valley to that neighborhood and then further down at McCrimmon's at the park?
There should be, yes. I haven't looked at the plans closely in a number of months, but generally there will be crosswalks at the intersections.
Okay, and then they'll have sidewalks so that people can go from one end of Lewis Stevens to the other?
For the most part, the sidewalk will be on the east side of Lewis Stevens Road from Parkside Valley up to Little Drive, and then between Parkside Valley and I believe it's Poplar Pike Lane. I've got to double check, but I think sidewalk will be on both sides of the road in that location because they are building out the road through there.
Got it. So we think that $350,000 is going to cover all that? That's all. I've just seen some other sidewalk projects we have coming to town, and they seem quite a bit larger.
Yeah, it should. I mean, of course, the prices could always go up when bid, but one of the benefits of doing the betterments like this is that they're folded into a much larger project, and so generally when DOT does this, the costs are a little bit lower because mobilization, everything else is some of the standard things that if we just do a sidewalk project, we may pay a lot more for mobilization, whereas here DOT's paying most of that mobilization cost because the contractor's mobilizing for the bigger project.
And then will there be any traffic signals put in at Parkside Commons?
Not at this time. Okay,
so that's something they're going to look at later on?
Yeah, they'll, as I think they looked at traffic at the very beginning of the project, did their projections, and they do not believe that there will be a traffic signal warranted at this time. So certainly we'll keep an eye on it, and if it looks like there's becoming an issue, we'll work with DOT to get a warrant analysis done after the project's open. But I will say as part of this project, one thing the DOT has done is they have extended the project limits down to the McCrimmon Parkway and Lewis Stevens Road intersection. They are going to be installing a traffic signal at that intersection to replace that current three-way stop.
So they'll get a traffic light?
Yep.
And they think the line of sight is at Parkside Commons, that cars that want to cross will be able to see both. It's an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, but I mean, at this time, DOT is not planning to put a signal in, I don't believe.
And townwide, if a signal ever goes there, do we have any plans? And I'll discuss it at the. I know we had talked about a betterment fund, because I would like to see any traffic lights now just kind of an upscale, the ornamental kind of looking dark. I mean, it just seems they're much nicer, much more as a kind of statement of you're in Morrisville.
Yeah, we do in our engineering design construction manual, we do have a requirement that new traffic signals have metal arms and metal poles and mast arms. We do not at this time require them to be powder coated black. We do allow, it's just a steel.
I got it, but a betterment cost would cover a powder coated. Would that be correct?
Yep.
Is there any talk with Carrie about that light that you talked about? being a
That
black
light
fiber?
is actually, we did talk about that. With that signal, it's actually should be a temporary signal because Carrie is currently conducting a study to look at extending McCrimmon Parkway all the way over to NC 55 from Lewis Stevens Road. And so if they do that, that intersection would shift fairly dramatically and that signal would have to be replaced. And so it did not make sense to spend money at this time to spend the extra money to put a metal pole and mast arms on that signal when it really ultimately will be a temporary signal.
And then just two other questions. Same thing going the other way then. We're going into RTP. That's going to get a sidewalk. Are they just normal 5-foot sidewalks or is it going to be more of an 8-foot for like a green?
It'll, on the east side of Lewis Stevens Road, it'll be a 10-foot wide path from Parkside Valley Drive all the way up to Little Drive. And there will be a traffic signal installed at Little Drive.
Right, they're already there.
Yep.
Okay, and then we're doing it this year in this fiscal budget versus waiting 2 more months and doing it in July or?
We have to sign, in order for DOT to let the project, we have to sign this agreement. In reality, we won't actually get billed for this money until more than likely towards the end of next fiscal year or even the following fiscal year. But we have to sign the agreement now so DOT can go to bid. And so and our finance department and Jeannie is aware of it and has plugged it into our long-range budgeting information.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Garamella, please.
Benjamin, one question I wanted to ask because when I had conversations with Kent, he said the intersection of Parkside and Lewis Stevens is going to get a 4-way stop sign because the other subdivision is on the other side, and that was the only way of safety mechanism to hold it. I just want to make sure that's still in the plan.
That I'm not real sure of. I have not, like I said, I haven't had a chance to look at these project plans in a while, and I'm not completely certain I've even seen the 100% plans, but I can certainly take a look and get those plans from DOT and see what they're planning to do.
Because that would help to clear a lot of the safety, especially going to the other side and the park next to it instead of 45 lane. Okay, thank you.
And just email us with if it's going to be just 2-way stop or 4-way.
The 4-way.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I don't think they can see.
Questions, gentlemen? You good? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve that 6A then.
Second.
Moved, I heard. Okay. Okay, any discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes 5-0 unanimously. This is future meetings, events, and citizen involvement opportunities. Ms. Jarbo already went over Springfest, so I will not do that one again. But before that, we actually have Music in the Park. That series continues this Thursday, May 16th from 6:30 p.m. till 8 p.m. Please bring a chair, blanket, and a picnic basket for a relaxing evening. This Thursday, the theme is Indian Culture Night. We'll have a DJ, musicians, multiple dance troupes, a caricature artist, and 2 food trucks, Mr. Mongolian and Jam Ice Cream. It's going to be at Church Street Park, and parking will be available on site. So please come out on Thursday and then on Saturday to our upcoming events. Next, we have council and manager comments. Town Manager Page, do you or staff have any additional comments this evening? No. Okay, excellent. Do any council members have any comments to make at this time? I will. Okay, why don't we start with Councilmember Rao?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the BFBS community for a great walkathon, and it was great to raise money for Wakehead Partnership and the Nature Conservancy. One matter I want to bring up before I make a couple of comments is I got a complaint from a senior, from someone in the senior community about being the victim of fraud, where a few $1,000s of gift cards were given. So I'm just concerned. I know our police is working on the issue, but to the extent we can work with consumer fraud divisions of the AG's office to figure out how we can address fraud, because it's something that seems to be happening more often, I don't know how we can do that, but I'm going to research the AG's office to see if there's like a consumer fraud division that could come to town, working for Attorney General Stein. So I just wanted to bring that up. So I got a couple of quick announcements. First of all, 2 years ago, when we returned from Kannapolis, we talked about on the train ride back the need for an anchor, and a few days later, I had been approached by a group party interested in the mall, and we talked about it, and I'm very excited that, and I want to congratulate Mayul Patel, the CEO of Equator Capital, for their recent acquisition of the Outlet Mall in Morrisville, which was mentioned in the TBJ and Raleigh News and Observer. We want to thank Equator Capital for their investment in the town, and I want to thank Sarah Gaskell and all the staff members that were helping with answering questions about Morrisville, working with me to sort of move the deal along. And I think it's going to be a really game-changing event for the town in terms of having a place for offices and innovation and workspace we've been talking about. So we look forward to this very exciting project. I want to thank everyone who came out to my Tech Talk event at Wake Tech RTP. Richard Boyd gave an enlightening talk on AI, and I think Wake Tech, Mayor Colley, Councilmember Johnson, and I were at Wake Tech just last week at the Lenovo reception ribbon cutting, and I want to thank Tom Looney, the chair, for just the great work that he's doing to build up Wake Tech as a real innovative place where they're training citizens for the new jobs of the new economy. Final couple announcements. If you're listening and you're a company and you're really excited about cricket, now may be a great time to get on the ground floor of something very global with our USA cricket team getting ODI, one-day international status. This is a huge win for the town of Morrisville and for our cricket league, and so I just think that's something that we could continue to work on. And the final thing I'll say is it was an honor to be with the mayor, with Councilman Garamella, and I can't remember who else was there at the Sarah Gaskell at the Shunk groundbreaking, which is a manufacturing company in Morrisville, which has announced a major expansion. And it was just so great to see the kind of advanced robotics and just what a world-class global company is. So I think once again, a great win for the town of Morrisville. So that's all I have for now, and I look forward to a good discussion of the budget. Thank you.
Great. And I think that Ms. Jarbo is already working to make sure that we're passing along AG fraud alerts.
Okay.
So we can continue to make sure that we're doing that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've been oversight, but
No, it's not an oversight. It's
okay.
great. The more attention we can bring to those kind of things, the
Thank
better.
you.
So thanks a lot for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Good. Can we go to Councilmember Johnson next, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to first thank Kathy for her update on SpringFest. I am very much looking forward to being at SpringFest, and I hope all of our citizens are too. I'm trying really hard not to watch the live video, as you all have advised me not to. Those of you that have called into meetings before, so I've been watching it but not listening to it. So Kathy held up the T-shirt for SpringFest, and I want to say that's a nice looking T-shirt. So thank you all for that update and for everything you're doing for that event. I too want to express my thanks, appreciation to Wake Tech and especially to the Lenovo. It really is a wonderful thing that Wake Tech is here in the town of Morrisville, and Lenovo is integral to their success. So congratulations to Lenovo on their naming of the lobby at Wake Tech. And then lastly, just want to thank Council for agreeing to allow us that need to be out of town to call into these meetings. So as Council knows, I've been conflicted this week. I am on the North Carolina League of Municipalities Board of Directors, and I have a meeting, Board of Directors meeting. I'm also president of the North Carolina Women in Municipal Government, and we have a breakfast scheduled this week. So I'm wearing lots of hats and advocating for our citizens, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all here in Hickory when you can get here for our annual conference. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Liz, for your service to the NCLM and everyone around us. We really appreciate you taking the time to call in tonight.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Schlink, please.
I was wondering if we could, either your news and notes or maybe even tonight, but Benjamin on Campo, what we heard about the rescoring of some of the projects that affect Morrisville. I know we've been working with Karen. We had that discussion about NC 54. If we break it up, but it can wait. But, and then the toll road obviously is of interest to me, that connection. But how everything was rescored, the sooner I can understand it, it helps me understand it, because I think they're still taking input on it. Okay.
Great. I'll go, and then Councilmember Wendell, I think, will go last. I just wanted to say that one of our longtime residents, Hubert Lee Carrington, passed last Thursday, just short of his 90th birthday. We're always saddened when we lose one of our longtime residents. I'd like to, on a more positive note, thank you to Wake County for partnering with us for our community library. I cannot emphasize enough how much this is going to be a game changer for our entire town. We look forward to many hours together within those walls, building community. It's going to be a really family-friendly place, and Wake County is a great partner, so we really appreciate them. Hard work, and a lot of us were there. A lot of residents showed up for that event, too. So thank you very much for our event staff for putting that together. Councilmember Wendell, do you have any comments this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate your indulgence. I'm going to read a statement that I think is fairly important, and I ask for your indulgence on this. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members, town staff, folks who are present tonight, and those of you who are watching from home. Prior to my comments this evening, I want to say to every living soul in the towns of Morrisville, Cary, and our surrounding areas that I have never once published any resident's home address nor any personal information about any residents of these towns on any social media site, a communications device, or other. There are several social media sites that I am wholly unaware of that have been and that I have actually been connected with or told that I was connected with. I tell you all today without hesitation that I am not affiliated in any way, nor do I know the administrators of any such social media site. I ask the people who may make these assumptions to please do their homework and find out truth rather than draw assumptions. As many of you are all well aware, after a year of being bullied and cursed at and a recipient of homophobic slurs, I mustered the courage to come forward publicly in an attempt to bring the ugliness to the surface in hopes that it would finally end. The events you have all heard from my voice or have read in my words, not others' words, but my words, who are on social media, are not the events that started this last spring. The harassing and bullying started during my campaign and was witnessed by members who are sitting upon this dais, as well as members of the Morrisville community. I was asked by members of council, as well as member of town staff, to take the higher road. I was told, that's just the way he is. I tried, and I tried diligently to keep my head held high, to do the work the people of Morrisville elected me to do. I fought tirelessly to get additional public schools in our town when the former mayor convinced everyone on this dais and the people of Morrisville that there was simply no land for another school in Morrisville. They certainly supported a for-profit charter school, but worked tirelessly to derail any discussion of additional public schools. But with the support of the mayor, these council members, and the Wake County Public School Board, we have been successful. We now have land purchased and the promise of new schools in Morrisville. We did what those who were only interested in their personal agendas tried to convince us was impossible, that there was no magic to getting a new school or two in Morrisville. All it took was honesty, transparency, integrity, and collaboration with the Wake County Public School Board. With every success, I was met with more bullying, intimidation, and fear-mongering. When I attempted to tell the people of Morrisville that a roadway through Preston community was never going to happen, that it was never discussed amongst this council, even as a far-stretched possibility, I tried to tell the residents of Preston that council would never put a thoroughfare through Preston community. After all, the two-lane roadway through Preston lies predominantly in Cary and not in Morrisville. Although I tried to tell the truth, certain members of the public preferred to believe that Crabtree Crossing Extension was going to go through and destroy a neighborhood. They didn't want to hear the truth. What was worse to me, though, was not what the people thought, but that the council never once just stated out loud that a roadway was never going to happen. I tell you again, there has never been a discussion about a road widening project to pass through a neighborhood. The rhetoric got so bad that the people started email campaigns creating fear that no neighborhood in Morrisville is safe. If CCE remained on the transportation plan, council could put thoroughfares through any and all neighborhoods. It was never, ever, ever a possibility. I mention this today because my heart is convicted to tell the truth one last time in public to you all, with the opportunity for any member of council or staff today to tell you that my words are not true. Because of the CCE project and because I called out a member of this council for bullying and harassment, a slander campaign was launched against me. During the last council session, Councilmember Schlink made a number of comments intended to shift the attention from his actions to my personal history. Bob Butler, the resident of Cary, not Morrisville, then stood at the podium and gave at least a 3-minute diatribe listing a number of states that I have lived in, legal matters I may have been party to, and more. I have lived in at least 4 states, and so all the town of Morrisville knows every time I moved, it wasn't to run from anything. It's because my son is training for the Olympics. He's the #1 diver in the United States. He's the reigning NC2A champion, 9-time U.S. national champion. I moved. I sold my homes. I changed jobs so that my son could go to training centers around the United States that USA Diving asked me to move to. No, I take that back. They didn't ask me to move there. They asked me to give up my son and let him live with another family in Durham so he could train at Duke University with Coach Nunzio Esposito to prepare him for the 2016 Olympic trials. They asked me to let him live with a family in Indianapolis so he could train at the National Training Center for the 2012 Olympic Games when he was 11 years old. I quit my job in Fort Lauderdale, I quit my job in Indianapolis, and I secured additional employment, all the better employment, as a matter of fact, because I adopted a little baby from Cambodia, and I didn't want to give him up. So for people to say that I ran from state to state and to try to make the people of this council and the members of this community think that I was doing something ugly, to me, it's shameful and it's hurtful. Though I understand why people would do that, I just hate that it happens in a town like Morrisville. I'm now compelled to tell you and address the ridiculousness of Mr. Butler's comments. However, I want to address several specific accusations. I apologize. I'm not compelled to address them. Nobody says that I have to, but I'm not ashamed. I live my life in absolute transparency. I had a television show on Lifetime. I ran for public office, and my son's hopefully going to be an Olympian. If anybody needs to live a transparent life, it's Jerry Wendell before you. Mr. Butler, a Cary resident, told the people of this town and surrounding areas that I was involved with and lost a lawsuit with the Social Security Administration. In fact, Mr. Butler and whomever was involved with him set an email campaign out along with videos to members of HOAs, including the HOA president of Kitts Creek and other HOAs, stating that he had a licensed professional do a background check on me. The same kind of background check that Councilmember Schlink wanted the council to vote for. Well, Mr. Butler needs to get his money back if he paid for the investigation, because I have never, and I hate to say it, but read my lips, I have never, ever filed with the Social Security Administration. What he didn't realize is there are other Jerry Wendells in California, and there are other Jerry Wendells in Florida. So if he hired a licensed professional to investigate me, he should have done a better job, because, folks, it wasn't me. In addition, he continued to say that I had to pay legal fees for a case involving a medical practice in Florida. Again, he needs to get his money back, because this is not true either. In fact, it teeters on something far worse. I have never in my life ever been compelled to pay legal fees or attorney fees to anyone for any reason. What he shared with you is a half-truth. There was a legal case. He claimed that I was defendant to, I believe, 6 lawsuits. I can tell you this, at 28 years old, that I was the defendant in at least 6 lawsuits. At 28 years old, I had just finished serving active duty in the United States Navy as a naval officer. Why? Because my mother died of a glioblastoma brain tumor at 49. When she passed away, I left the Navy because my mother was treated like a piece of dirt from the medical community, and I decided to leave the military go into healthcare so that I could be an advocate for patients. I opened up a restaurant. My mom worked for $3.30 an hour before she got sick, flipping burgers in a local restaurant, hamburger restaurant. So I opened up a restaurant. Her grandma name was Nana, and you can look it up. I opened up a restaurant called Nana's Country Burgers in Cottonwood, California. Population, about 2,500. The profit from the restaurant was earmarked for the National Brain Tumor Foundation in San Francisco. You can look that up too, and you can see the checks that were written and donated in my mom's name to the National Brain Tumor Foundation to help pay for victims of brain tumors who couldn't afford to go to cancer treatment centers. Because I went in the Navy at 17 and I left the Navy at 28, and I knew I wanted to open up a restaurant, I hired a lady who was an enrolled agent with the IRS to help me open my restaurant. And she did. And we opened the restaurant, and it was successful. And for 3 years, it was successful. In fact, I thought I was making so much money that I would have to be spending because I never took a salary from the restaurant. It hired ladies that were my mom's friends, who were poor women in the small town, who had never had a job before. And at the time, I paid them $9 an hour, when the minimum wage was about $3.50, so that they could have a life for their families. Because I didn't need to make any money. I had another job. Unfortunately, the enrolled agent, when she set up the business for me, she set it up as a sole proprietorship. I had no idea what that was. I was naive, and I should have learned. I should have asked, but I didn't. So it was set up as a sole proprietorship. Unfortunately, she took money from the business. I contacted the IRS when I found out, and I found out that a lot of vendors had not been paid, but this lady had absconded with money. She lost her status as an enrolled agent. It's all public record. You can look it up. And because I was so concerned, I used every penny that I had to pay every vendor that I could for that restaurant, to the point that I lost every nickel that I had, everything that I had saved. But it still wasn't enough. And so I had to hire an attorney. And at 28 years old, I hired an attorney, and his advice to me was, Jerry, you're never going to be able to dig yourself out of this. You need to file bankruptcy. File bankruptcy. You're a smart guy. You can start over. It killed me. Why did it kill me? Because it was my name. It wasn't an LLC. I didn't have the protection of an LLC. Then there would have been no issue. Jerry didn't do anything dastardly. So if it's dastardly that I file for bankruptcy, and the people that Mr. Butler identified in his talk at the podium were the people that were listed on the bankruptcy. So they didn't file a suit against me. I filed bankruptcy. And they were named in the bankruptcy. That is absolutely true. But since then, I got my life back together. I rebuilt. I'm an executive in healthcare now. I have a great credit rating, and I have a phenomenal son. Am I ashamed of that? Hell no. I think it's a success story. So if anybody wants to shame me for filing bankruptcy, I can't argue with it. I have to allow them to do it. But don't say that I got sued by a bunch of people and I lost a lot of lawsuits, because it's not true. Finally, I was employed in Naples, Florida, and part of my employment agreement as a director of operations was for commissions. So I got a salary plus commissions. When I left that employment to take a vice president position, a normal career progression move, the company said they weren't going to pay me the commissions that were due to me, but I had an employment contract. It was about $30,000. So I filed a claim for unpaid commissions. We went to court. Within 30 minutes, the judge found in my favor, and I was awarded the commissions that were due me. That's all it was. There was nothing insidious. Whatever Mr. Butler was trying to turn it into to try to defame me, it wasn't true. Last but not least, and I cannot speak at length, but I do want to share a little bit to give some accuracy. What I can tell you is I was the chief operating officer for a medical group in South Florida. I was asked by a surgeon to destroy an entry in a medical record that had been subpoenaed because a female attorney with 2 children, ages 2 and 4 years old, was hit by a truck and needed surgery. She had surgery. Follow-up on her was not completed appropriately, and she died, leaving 2 children. Her husband filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the medical practice. I was asked to destroy a post-operative note, which I refused to do. or anyone versed in legal positioning, and anyone who read what this attorney put out to everybody that showed that I filed the lawsuit. If you are an attorney, you know what legal positioning is, and there was legal positioning done on my part. I didn't claim anything, my attorney did, for a reason that I can't go into. And at the end of the day, although the document that the gentleman presented said that I had to pay legal fees and I had to pay attorney fees and court fees, that is not true, because what he failed to produce was the alternate document that went along with that, in which both sides agreed that we would not pursue anything further because of the wrongful death lawsuit. And that's all I can say about that. I apologize. There's significantly more, but I just am not at liberty to go into detail with that. So there you have it. I ask you, the people of Morrisville, realize that local politics are really no different than state or federal politics. I hope that it would be different, but unfortunately, I found myself disappointed and frankly ashamed. Bullying is an ugly monster that should frighten us all. But when the President of the United States sets the example and finds humor and glory in how much he can hurt people and how much of a bigger stick he'll take after someone to ruin them, when he's called out for his behavior, emboldens all bullies to mimic his behavior. Alex de Tocqueville, in his writings, Democracy in America, warned that despotism and individualism would be the downfall of democracy. I fear that we are nearing that very thing. This year, more than 4,500 young people will commit suicide. 4,500 children this year will commit suicide. 10 times that number will attempt it. Of that number, 98% of those young people will end their lives at the hand of a bully. They'll snuff out their existence because they were told they were less than, or they didn't belong, because they were called faggot or slut. Over and over again, because people they looked to for protection told them, kids will be kids. Take the high road. This is in studies. You can Google search it. Pull up the study that I pulled it from. These children were told, take the high road. Don't let it bother you. The victims were told, oh, that's just insert the name. I intended tonight to show you the faces of these beautiful human beings who are no longer with us because of bullying. These children, teenagers, and young adults hung themselves, threw themselves off parking garages, off of silos, hung themselves from trees right at their bus stop so the boys on the bus would see them hanging there when the bus came by in the morning. So they could show them that they did what they were told to do. Is this normal? Is this acceptable? Is it funny? Is it something to smile at? Because a guy who's 250 pounds finally calls out a bully? Just because I'm big doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And then to turn the victim into the bully is shameful. I'm almost finished, Mr. Mayor. If it's not acceptable, then why is it? Why should an adult be told to just take the high road? Our children look to political figures with awe. We're supposed to inspire them to want to take part in civic activities that strengthen and embolden our democracy. What message are we telling these children when we as adults can bully, yes, even grown men, and make themselves the victim and try to convince people that the victim of bullying and harassment is actually the bad person by putting out half-truths and absolute lies? I mean, who does this? A resident forwarded libelous email campaigns to many members of the HOAs without even reaching out to me to ask if the allegations were true, without checking the assumptions. I hope that this answers everyone's questions and places the focus back where it belongs. I pray that the people of Morrisville and the true leaders on this council will stand for truth and justice. I will continue to work on behalf of victims of bullying and will serve as anti-bullying advocate until my last breath. But I choose not to do it from this seat. I cannot in good conscience serve on a council that has knowingly allowed me to be bullied and harassed when it could have been stopped more than a year ago. I pray the people of Morrisville will elect worthy leaders in November. I pray the people of Morrisville will be able to see past the politics and will elect leaders who are deserving of the title, the honorable, and with whom they can place their trust. I apologize to the people of Morrisville who look to me to serve them, but I hope that I've served you thus far with honor and dignity. I don't run from bullies, and I don't back away from a fight, but I will walk away from a system that prefers passivity and an institution that has allowed bullying to reign free and allow a fellow council member to be publicly horsewhipped with lies from a podium without a single word to stop it from happening. Mr. Mayor, Town Manager Page, fellow council members, I hereby resign my position as council member for the town of Morrisville effective immediately. Thank you.
With that, we will take a 10-minute break and then come back for work sessions. We have 2 work session items this evening, a continued presentation of items related to the fiscal year 2020 annual operating budget and capital investment program, and town council updates. So please reconvene at 7:40. Thank you. We'll be down at there. It's 7:44. It's 7:44. We're coming back into session. We have 2 work session items this evening, a continued presentation of items related to the fiscal year 2020 annual operating budget and capital investment program and town council updates. Martha Page, town manager, and Jeannie Hooks, assistant town manager, will facilitate our discussion. Thank you. Town manager.
Thank you.
I don't think it counts as a form in our rules.
Okay, so we're going to move along. Town manager.
Okay, can everybody hear me? You're going to start? Okay, go right ahead.
So we've passed out some information for you that we committed to providing last meeting, and I just want to sort of fill you in on what that is. One is we've provided you with a copy of our last CIP discussion. Many of the things we touched on last time were already in that presentation, so really just pulled it so that you have a reminder of that information. You also have the start of the FAQ document that captured, I think, 99% of the questions that were asked last time. Many of them were capital related. We wanted to make sure you got this as quickly as possible so that it could inform continued discussion, which we might expect would occur next meeting. But that would give you time to review this information to further advance the capital discussion. We didn't think that would be productive to start here. There's debt items. There were some miscellaneous questions. There was one substantive question regarding some of our operating history in the past that we're really fleshing that out. You will have that before the next meeting, but we wanted to provide more context to that discussion. We did not get that through for this batch. And there was one, I think, one more question that we're waiting on an answer to get, that we're talking with Wake County about our affordable housing. So that's the other document that you have. We did receive, as Councilmember Schlink mentioned, at one point he asked us a series of questions, in particular about fire station staffing and ISO, which you have answers to all of those questions. And there were some questions that Mayor Cawley asked me that I thought were of interest that would help inform other council members that we included as well. So they weren't just his personal questions, but one that might inform your discussion. So you have those in your document as well. What we'd like to do tonight is go through revenues and through expenditures, but again, our goal is to capture the questions you have so that we can return and get you those answers back to have a productive discussion on May 28th. Thank you. Yes, we'll send electronic copies out as well, and this will get posted to the briefing item as well for the public.
Mm-hmm. So you do not want me to go over anything in here?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, so we will. Yeah, agree. Okay, so what we'd like to cover tonight is at very least get through revenues and get to expenditures. Can you hear me? Okay. So talk about revenues and get to expenditures. If we can move to fund balance, that's great. If not, don't worry about it. We have other time that we can talk about fund balance. And again, we're going to use the platform of me you hold your questions. I put out some little notepads here. It just allows us to facilitate and move through the presentation and the conversation a little bit quicker. We'll capture and collect your questions and information needs. And again, you'll be provided additional information back on the frequently asked questions. So let me move to revenues. All right. So revenues, we generally talk about the general fund and the stormwater fund. Those are our primary operating funds that we work with. So I just want to give you some highlights, some big highlights of what we normally talk about with revenues this time of year. In a $35.9 million budget, that's both general fund and stormwater combined. Your primary revenue sources, your major revenue sources, is of course your ad valorem taxes. That represents about 54% of your operating budget resources. Your next largest resources is your sales tax, and it represents 17%. And usually tends to run with some steady growth this time of year with positive economy situation. For your ad valorem, we are estimating typically we budget an average of 3% increase year over year. Sales tax is doing really well this year, positive economy like I mentioned. Consumer confidence indices are still very strong. Your third largest is your utility franchise sales tax. That's about 4.6% of your total resources, or in this case, 1.6 million, just to put into context. The next one is what's called video programming. This particular source is really overall neutral for Morrisville. For a lot of other jurisdictions, it's actually statewide considered a declining source because market demands are shifting from cable TV to streaming over the internet. And that's really affecting this particular source. What's counter for Morrisville is really Morrisville's positive growth. As you add population, you add new bills. New bills generates additional revenue, so it sort of tends to neutralize, at least in a positive economy for Morrisville. So I haven't had to project a decline in this one. It just hold it neutral. Past couple of years, it's been that way. Tax base is around $4.9 billion projected. That's what's generating your ad valorem taxes. Again, that's estimating at 3%. Your ad valorem collection rate is running about 99.9%. Excellent. I mean, that means you are really getting just about everything that you bill out, returned to you in ad valorem taxes revenue. You good? Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Something interesting that's occurring in fiscal year 19 is we're likely going to collect something a little more, realize additional tax base as a result of an audit that was done for a large commercial property here in Morrisville. It's generating about $53 million in value, assessed value, that was found in properly categorizing personal property or equipment associated with the facility and the manufacturing. And that audit has revealed additional prior year collections that we're looking forward to. But again, our average growth, if you look at it year over year in a period of time, it's averaging 3%, a strong 3%. Permit and fees. Let's talk a little bit about that. Councilmember Garamell and I were having an offline conversation about that with our inspections director. Permitting fees or development service fees in general, or what I categorize, I have all major revenues categorized by a certain type, certain class. This particular source is what I call an unpredictable source. Why is that? Well, that's because you do not generate the revenue. The revenue walks in your door in the interest in the development, economic development opportunity here in Morrisville or vacant developable land. So that is an unpredictable source, and we tend to take a more conservative approach. What I call a 3-year rolling average is really what I look for. What does that do for Morrisville? You leverage strongly the sources that are impacted by the economy, like sales tax, your ad valorem, growth in your assessed value. You take unpredictable sources and you you watch them and you monitor them, they do not have a predictable pattern. So you develop a conservative approach to those. The likelihood with Morrisville's growth in the past fiscal year or past calendar year, permits grew 15%. That's huge. They are running the same trend for the first 6 months of this calendar year, which would indicate that we are going to have some strong growth. Again, the development has to walk in the door. So this is one you want to be a little more reserved with so that you ultimately end up at the end of the fiscal year with your revenues exceeding expenditures. So that explains that one just a little bit more, a conversation that I had with Councilmember Garamella. Those have increased 3.6% over fiscal year 19. But overall, defined as that unpredictable source. What I look at is how are permits behaving, what preliminary conversations in the planning department are we experiencing, and we have a number of conversations that are going on. We have a number of activities where projects have been approved, but construction hasn't started. That's all relevant information in trying to figure out where are we going to predict this particular source. You're talking about over $1 million in potential revenue in development services fees. But it can swing very quickly the other way and be only $700,000 in a year. So now other sources have to make up that deficit. Again, an unpredictable source year over year has no pattern. So revenue details. Well, let me talk a little bit about stormwater. So your ERU fee is the fee that you put out to the community for stormwater equivalent residential unit for impervious surface. That one I actually have growing at 4%. Similar, if you have a positive population growth, that means you have more ability to bill the residents or the commercial properties. So this one I have at a 4% growth rate. And again, this year we did, because we were doing a study, we worked to try to not have a subsidy sent out from the general fund. It was shrinking anyway. But if we were to do large capital projects, then the source would potentially need some subsidization, or you would need to look at your fee to be able to support it 100%. But right now it's 100% match with the existing revenue sources it has. So other revenue details. Most importantly, your tax rate is 39 cents. It did not change as compared to fiscal year 19. Same with the vehicle tax fee, it's at $30, and your stormwater fee is at $25. Now the interesting thing with your vehicle fee is, remember, $5 can be used for any purpose, any operational purpose. Another $5 may be used for transit. The $20 remaining is meant to be dedicated to roadway maintenance. And that's what, in one of the questions that we've provided, a breakdown of how much money in a budget year is contributed to roadway maintenance, we provided the answer to that breakdown. And it includes vehicle fees. How much accounts for that? We have some other moderate user fee adjustments. Again, these are mostly in the planning department and some in the parks department. And we are pending review with MFC fees. As you're bringing on this renovated facility, we want to make sure we reassess them and that we're charging comparative fees that are going to work for the community. So we're going to work on that. Again, some of the things that we consider when we are looking at our whole revenue picture or portfolio is we always look and pay attention to the indicators for a positive economy. Where is it sitting at right now? Where are they saying the future might go? Currently, it's a steady state. We're in what I call an economic engine in Wake County, sort of insulates us from potential negative impacts of the last economic downturn. We are leveraging our growth in revenues. That means just the natural growth year over year. We're putting those to work for us. And we are proposed using limited funds of your fund balance. And it's actually less than 3% of your total budget is what we're projecting to use. It's about $945,000. Less than 3%, what does that mean to me? As a person who tries to pull a budget together and analyzes our historical performance, it means that it's likely that we would not have to use it by the end of the fiscal year, because you would potentially experience in a positive economic condition positive revenue growth that would exceed your expenditures. We budgeted 100% to get a good budgetary limitation for the manager to work and have flexibility to deliver core services and to work and execute capital projects. But the reality is you don't ever spend 100% of your budgetary authority. There's somewhere around 93%, 95%. That's usually where we tend to go. So again, less than 3% of your total budget as a fund balance appropriation, likely recoverable in a positive situation. Now, things can always turn. We know that. And we are leveraging our other resources that we have. So you've been really smart in putting monies away year over year to reserves. Well, now we're leveraging them to put capital projects in motion and get things moving that are listed on your CIP or other important capital outlays for the community. Interesting for commercial development and residential development, just put in perspective what projects are currently in queue that might present or result in some revenues from development services to ad valorem tax base revenues to potential sales tax. Wake Competition Center, we have several hotels. There are several office buildings that are in the work, various stages of development, either preliminary discussions or all the way to approved site plans to being constructed. All of that impacts our revenue streams. McCrimmon 540, the factory, Wake Tech, Building 2, I believe is what it's called. Residential developments, Bainbridge, Broadstone, Mason Farms, Wilson Place, and so forth. All of these are very important to know and to substantiate our revenue projections. So just putting that into perspective for you. So I'm going to pause there. That's actually revenues. Would you like to add something?
I'd like to just make comments. I made some references in my budget message sort of at our future revenue forecasting. I believe one of the things that council will and should focus on during the next year is some more in-depth workshops, work sessions on our revenue structure. We've got lots of things that are going to be happening, one of which is the reval. Jeannie's mentioned that we have good property tax growth, and the census is going to follow that, and that catch-up of per capita has, historically benefited Morrisville, and at this point, I'm, optimistic that will be the case. So that will help us build capacity. But we also have some we are growing. We've mentioned that we have not grown in context with the size of our town, and so we're preparing that information for you. But the costs of our services and the people that we need to do it and the things that we need to do it also are growing. And because we were very conservative about that for many years, we're in some ways playing some catch up. So one of the things we might, not advocating either way other than recognizing, we might need to study what we're using our tax dollars for. One of the things we've talked about as long as 4 years ago was our solid waste fees. And we'll be talking a little bit about the increased cost of recycling and the increased cost of those services. So that is one that many municipalities do not include in their property tax rate. In fact, we're one of the few that still includes it in a property tax rate. We also have mentioned we've got our stormwater program that is being reevaluated, and what we're paying for, what we need to support the core services that we provide, and how we might do that. Does it include a general fund subsidy or does it not? And how do we want to prepare for the future growth of the town? In order to do those types of things, one of the things that Morrisville has lacked is a way to bill for those services. So that would be a structural component of now that we're putting our legacy system out of business and putting one in place that could support a billing function, those options become more viable for us to at least to discuss. but we would also have to have the staff in order to bill. So a lot of things that I think are going to be in our future forecasting and preparing for the future discussions, as well as some of the other things we've already talked about.
Something that I included in the long-range forecasting was anticipation of reval in 2021. So I actually bumped the projection 5%. Our last time, I believe it was 11% overall was the impact, and then before that, it was much, much larger the time before that. But that's at least to give you an idea of what might be coming in the door. Again, things can change. The way that it swings between how it affects residential and commercial just depends on the market. And I will say the fact that we've changed from an 8-year period of evaluation where we say we're readjusting or riding the sticker shock is you've reduced that time period. So I thought 5% might work for Morrisville for a good, safe assumption. But we'll work on that with the tax assessor within the coming year. So I'm going to pause here and see if there are any questions on revenues in particular. And again, I'm going to collect them so that we can work on them and bring them back. It'll move the meeting along. Okay?
Looked like Councilmember Garamella had some notes.
Jeannie, I know the census is there, like what Martha is talking about is coming up, and then the reval is coming up. Do you have past projections of 2020 census, how that increased the revenues? Because I have no clue. Was it? And we did the mid-year too, like in 2015. What's the delta? How does that help? Because everyone says census is important. I don't know how that ties in back to the revenue. What component of it that people look into that?
And I won't answer the question now, but one of the things that you do see every 6 months or so is our internal estimates of our population growth always outpace the census. So closing that gap is a real value of that census for us. That many of our revenues are per capita. So that is why it's very important to make sure that we have a robust effort to count every citizen in Morrisville.
And again, the reval, that's the same thing in this way. Like, how does the previous two help in projecting the revenues?
So are you asking last time there was a reval what we did with our property tax rate vis-a-vis staying revenue neutral or not?
Not even in that context. Not like, how did it help to increase the revenue of the base revenue, that point of view.
The change.
The change.
It only changes the revenue based on the property tax rate.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
It's going up by 10%, say, assuming. So how does that, with compounding with census, how do we look into that?
Okay. Other questions on revenues?
Yeah, I was going to recognize Councilmember Rao if you're done. Councilmember Rao?
Past, I've heard references to when you talked about development, the existing projects in the pipeline, about the potential taxable, the economic impact of the McCrimmon corridor. I've heard, I don't know what that number is. I remember a few years ago it was mentioned as a significant amount of money. Would that be something more long-term to project as the extension project gets finished up, that we could, looking 4 to 5 years out, expect significant increases in the tax base?
So the way that in which I'll give you this, but I will also look at the economic impact of the McCrimmon corridor. The way in which you actually grow your tax base is actually through new development. There's also another way in which you can cause change, and that is through redevelopment of older blighted properties. Morrisville still has vacant developable land, and that corridor is going to be an essential key to growth to our future tax base. So I'll work on that for you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Schlenk and then Councilmember Johnson after that.
I'm sorry, maybe it's in these answers, but to some of the questions, but I think I asked it last time and before. Is there a chart where I could see what we've done the last 3 to 5 years in revenue growth, and then show me what you're projecting it to be in down the road, in 2 years, 3 years?
So you want to answer that?
Yeah, that's the information we mentioned. We're pulling some of that context. It's one of the several questions that you don't have an answer yet, but we're working on that to get that to you as soon as possible this week.
Okay, and I'd like for it to be included in future anytime. We used to have it in the past when we went over the budget, but I think it's helpful.
Okay, Councilmember Johnson on the phone.
Yes, thank you. First, I want to thank Jeannie for her last comment there about redevelopment and how that is an opportunity for future revenue streams. I think that's an issue that I've tried to bring to the forefront over and over the last few years, and especially now as we're going through our land use plan. I think that's something we need to understand and take into consideration. So I appreciate those comments, and that ties into actually my question for Martha, and I appreciate also this conversation about future forecasting needs and our revenue structure. I absolutely think we need to have a broader conversation about, the future sustainability of our revenue stream. And reval and the census clearly is a huge piece of that. And that's not information we're going to have anytime too soon. So my question is, when do you anticipate having this broader conversation, Martha? Are you looking to have it sooner than later? I mean, clearly we're not going to do it for this budget.
We expect that this will be the focus of our work sessions that we have scheduled as we come back from the summer and launch into those as we prepare for reval and a future census. We'll have some information on solid waste to share, as well as the results of that stormwater subsidy. So I believe it'll be really an ongoing effort, and I might recommend, really a huge part of our retreat topics to not just get information, but really to discuss and gather how we want to proceed, policy discussions and decisions, not just a sharing of information, but really have that in-depth conversation about where we want to take that information to.
Did you say after the summer, like fall of this year, and then into retreat of 2020?
Yes, ma'am. We expect we'll continue planning, CIP planning, and right after the budget is adopted, while it's fresh. As we enter into the fall, there's that summer break from work sessions that we'll be preparing information and bringing back to council in September.
Thank you. That's good timing. Thank you.
Can I just note on this slide, we talked about alternate tax rate scenarios provided. At what point will we sort of be discussing that? During expenditures or?
Expenditures.
Okay. I don't have any questions about revenue. I appreciate all the work that you've done to give us a positive look at the future. Councilmember Garamella has another follow-up.
Yeah. I know you talked about that landlines and the cables are coming down. And how does the cell phone work? It may have a 404, which is Atlanta code, but the address is local Morrisville. Do we get anything out of that based on the location of the person, or is it based on the origin of the phone that it has been?
I'll get you some information on that.
Because is that a factor for revenue? Because I do not know that.
I will tell you what source that's located in and provide you some details.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe we're ready to move on to expenditures. Ms.
Yes, sir. So to put into some context, growth between the 4 years, 2017, that we tend to put out in your budget. So I took 2017 and moved it through to this fiscal year. Some context. In order to look at it effectively, you do have to take your original budget's less transfers so that you can pull out those other sources. And that's where you see really real growth in expenditures, real growth in revenues. And when you do that, you're talking a 12% growth between fiscal year 19 and this fiscal year. And I believe it was running around 23% for overall 4-year picture, just to put some context. Now, why or what was contributing to that? So Morrisville's made some pretty significant shifts, one of which is personnel. So in that 5-year period, we have added overall, I believe it was 20-some positions. I believe it was 22, 17 of which were in police department or in public safety overall in the 4 years. So that gives you some context. And some other ones were across the organization. Another big and very significant point to note is in 2017, you really made a big decision to commit additional reserves every year, not just to your fire apparatus capital reserve fund, but you created the capital investment project reserve fund, and you created the roadway and transportation reserve fund. And when you did that, what that did is it created a significant shift in stance of committing resources, new resources collected in a year for future use, for future capital projects. And when you do that, that really changes the dynamics of fund balance and how it is proportioned out. So that was a big, significant shift. In this particular fiscal year, you're committing $1.2 million that you're sending out of the general fund to fund up future reserves and or subsidizing your municipal service district. That's about $110,000 each year. You've been committed to that since, I believe, 2012 is when we established the municipal service district. We have one more project to complete in that particular one. The other thing that is really important to note is debt obligation from 17 to now is doubled. Again, that's you taking a really strong stance in executing and delivering projects to the community that you originally started establishing were important through your CIP conversations, through your adopted plans like your Parks and Rec master plan. All of those master plans set some priority or level of importance for the needs of the community. So again, you've made some really significant decisions to move and execute things. So that puts some context around that. Typically your largest functional area that you spend money on is public safety. And typically your next is somewhere around public works. But something I wanted to call out to you here is your next one is your capital investment and other operations. That's largely because you've been sending money out of your general fund each year to fund up future things. Example, last year you sent $3.8 million out and put it into your capital improvement plan. And we're now being able to utilize and tap into that reserve resource to activate CIP projects. That's just an example. And you've been doing that since 2017. So let's get to the personnel details. Something I'll note here, and then I'll ask Martha if there's something that she would like to highlight here. For the new personnel, there's 12 positions, and there's 3 additional positions in the alternative scenarios that have a tax equivalent to them. Your largest expense overall in major category of expense is personnel, and it's over 50% in this budget. And it grew by 8% as compared to the original budget of fiscal year 19. Again, that's substantial because not only did you add positions this year, you added, I think, 9 some positions the year before that and some additional positions before that. So we have 3 firefighters, fire training captain. We have several aquatics position. Again, you're renovating a facility and expanding its potential functionality. You've got to staff it to be able to provide the core service that facility is meant to provide. We have very important two positions for public works is a mechanic, a second mechanic, and a parks and grounds tech 2. As you build things or add facilities or vehicles, you've got to have people in place that we do a combination of outsourcing resources and utilizing our internal staff expertise. The other positions are development service related. I mentioned to you that in calendar year 2018 as compared to 17, because permits are reported on a calendar year, that growth was 15%. In the first 6 months of this calendar year, I'm seeing even stronger growth in permits, and we need people in the right places in the development services field to pull those processes through efficiently and effectively for the development community to realize these revenues. And it's not just in the inspections department I'm referring to, it's in the engineering department that we have a development services coordinator. These are people that handle logistics and paperwork to help usher these projects through. And we have an assistant building code administrator. We used to have this position, I think, a couple of years ago, and then we did not. Another essential position in the inspections department. Martha, I'm going to pause there. Is there something you want to add?
I'll just add the context behind the position requests is expanded programming and a need to have people in place to produce work efficiently and timely. We're falling behind in some areas. The volume of work that goes on behind the scenes to make things happen just continues to increase, and it is in part what contributes to some things getting behind. There is expanded service here. The firefighters in particular are part of that programmed Quint staffing that you've seen before, and if we would need to refresh that, we could, but you even got a presentation on that earlier this year. Development service, it continues to grow, and while that's an unpredictable resource, the permit activity has achieved over 1,000 the last couple years. So, as I've mentioned again in the budget message, the standards for justification of the positions is high, and in some ways, some of the positions that we've tried to find other ways to accommodate the workload are not sustaining us for the future. So that is why these position requests have been made. One of the things that the mayor and I talked about this morning is the total value of these positions. I prepared a little summary spreadsheet of that. You have all of it in the detail, but I've pulled that out. And then I've made reference to future forecasting of our needs. I thought it was important for me to ensure council knew that I don't consider this a one and done year. There are continued needs that, although they have not been vetted and they have not been committed to in any way, shape, or form, is I count on the department heads, and they do a good job at knowing what they need to accomplish the goals and objectives that they've been provided. So I referenced some numbers in the budget message. I have some information to share just so that you can have a context of that and also ask those questions. Many of them are public safety, but not all. It is our back of house that we've held constrained, and it's just not a sustainable model to continue to keep up with the growth in our town. I'll pass those out before we leave this evening, and then Jeannie or I are happy to answer any specific questions about the personnel positions before we continue to talk about personnel costs.
Councilman Rowe, and then Garamella.
I'd be curious as to, and maybe you can just write this down as a question, answers to come back with, just defining an aquatic aid. Is that like a instructor, a lifeguard, and is that to deal with more programming? And because I'm just curious as to and I'll go back and review the cost because I'm pretty sure the cost was in there, but I just can't remember it off the top of my head. And also the administrative assistant, but I know that's probably addressing workload of the facilities manager. And the reason I ask that question is one concern that I have, not really a concern, but something for us to think about is sometimes recently a lot of citizens in Morrisville have been approaching me about the churches and the religious institutions and the synagogues because of all of the gun violence that's been taking place. And pretty much if we wanted to provide extra patrols or service at those institutions, we because of the staffing, I assume that we would ask them to pay us, right, to staff. Is that how it works? And the reason I ask that is, as we look at staffing levels, would of the 4.3 million that was allocated public safety, would we have to increase that amount to be able to have more staffing of police officers during peak hours of some of our religious temples? We have a synagogue, we have 2 Hindu temples, we have a number of churches in Morrisville, and we have a lot of shootings taking place all around the country. And I know this is an issue that the county's dealing with, so it's just something I want to bring up from a policy perspective.
So Jeannie, I'd get some information on how off-duty staffing works. That is not a service that we provide. It is something that is often requested, but people are charged, and you are correct. It is a staffing issue. If we don't have people that are able, we want to keep our patrols on the streets, so it has to be off-duty officers.
To be off-duty officers, we would get the request and we would take off-duty officers and put them there when requested. But is there an option of putting enough money in there we wouldn't do that anyway, because if we do hire police officers, we want them on the street. I'm just trying to, I don't like to have this kind of a conversation, but just given everything going on, it just came to my mind.
I think we can provide some information. That would be a major policy discussion for council.
No, I can talk on that topic because I did talk to the police chief a couple of months ago on a similar. I think, to my understanding, the police keeps its regular staffing. They would not go down on their regular staffing just because a temple wants off-duty officers. If they need it, they'll pull it from Wake County Sheriff. That's what I have been told. They pull it from there.
And there are private security firms as well.
Yeah. So.
Okay, Councilmember Garamella, and then Councilmember Schlenk, please.
A couple of questions popped to me as yes, we hear about Quint. So can we have where are we with the Quint numbers and how much more the progression, to make it fully complete story there. And I was okay with the mechanic till you said it was a second mechanic, so what does that really mean? Because how much do we have in vehicles, and what I'm looking mechanic as a self person like you who helps to basically get the costs in-house done, with the repairs and other things taking outside. So is that how we are projecting, or do we do both outsourcing and mechanic? That's the reason my asking of this question. Is it more cost effective to just outsource it, or is it more cost effective to have it in-house? And one thing I saw was in the 5 million, the lab salary is almost close to 900 something that was projected, right? And so it's kind of hard to understand how many positions were out of that is the lab salaries? Is it?
What $5 million number are you referencing?
When out of, like, there was a chart, okay, like here, page 44, appropriation and assigned fund balance. Is that the salaries or? No, or is it completely different?
Completely different.
Okay,
So your appropriation of fund balance is just the difference between revenues and expenditures because you have to have a balanced budget.
Okay, then my
What
fault.
Jeannie was referencing, I believe, is because we budgeted 100% of our salaries, and all of our positions are not filled 100% of the time, you have lapsed salary, which is why it's one of the reasons why you wouldn't have to use that just as you get more revenues than you've budgeted.
Okay, then my apologies. I was thinking this was part of the lap salary, like 945, that was going into it, so I wanted to know. Okay, and then to get a perspective of this chart, how would I come to know how many are presently there, how many are need to be filled, and we know these are new positions. Like for example, firefighters, there are 70 of them. And because of people in and out, coming and going, so we have like 10 left that needs to be filled, and then 3 more.
So obviously vacancies can change day by day. We don't add positions during the year other than what you have to authorize all full-time positions. So we do that at budget time. But positions get filled throughout the year and people resign throughout the year. And HR does keep track of that. And we monitor and track how many days positions take to fill, et cetera. But I think we can provide some more information on how lapse salary occurs. Is that?
Not really, because you are trying very hard to get all the services at full, and obviously it's not in our hand, and so how much is that, in and out? Even though we are trying to fill, we are also trying to fill, the backup, those are the things.
I think we can provide you some context that helps understand that.
And I saw this assistant building code administrator and the development service coordinators. It is good to have these kind of things, but I don't see anything pertaining to engineers. Or did you feel like there was some room to add an engineer or more? Not necessarily town engineer is only one, but other engineering services, where they can help us with all the new development that's coming up.
So one of the things I've heard from both engineering and inspections, and they are the two departments that made this request, what is eating up the time of their staff that is out there doing that high level of work is the amount of paperwork and administrative burden that keeps them from doing that primary job. So that is the primary driver. These are the positions they've requested. We have modified one of our positions in engineering to get another engineer on staff to try to assist as well. But that was an existing position we already had.
You think this will improve with the Intergov and Munis, because that's exactly where
that they will complement each other. A good point as well. In both of those cases, customer service, delivery, and efficiency in getting information out to citizens and the development community is why perhaps the administrative positions have been asked for. We always prioritize the customers, but it's the paperwork that perhaps lags behind, which then indirectly affects our customers.
Martha, that's helpful.
Councilmember Schlenk, please.
Okay. I think, Jeannie, I heard you say about 10 minutes ago that we're doubling our debt Is that correct? Is that anywhere reflected in here? Because the debt service ratio doesn't seem to double, but again, but I'd like that to reflect, because I thought the same. I was wondering how close it is. So let's say we're paying 1.5 million debt, we're going to go to 3.
So in the FAQ, there is some extensive information actually around debt service and the debt ratio and the impact of the potential capital investment projects. To explain what I mean by doubling, since fiscal year 2017, you had about roughly $1.6 million in debt obligation at that time. You're now up to almost $3.5 million in fiscal year 2020. So that's what I'm referring to. In between that period of time, the debt service payment annually has gone up.
I get it, and I'm just wondering, based on these projections, I would think that it's almost going to double again if we do everything that's in this budget. It's going to double again.
No, the debt service that's recognized as new in this budget is from the remaining issuance of the bond debt. So we have no other debt planned for right now until council makes some policy decisions.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to say, but the proposed, and again, it's more for the council, not for the staff, but what I'm looking at is, okay, so if we approve, yeah, if we, well, no, if I could finish, start. I mean, we've already committed to a certain extent the Public Works building. So that's $8 million or whatever it's going to be. We've committed to Aquatic Center overruns. We've committed to other things. I'm just saying, so if we commit to two new fire stations, we haven't even talked about the personnel that are going to needed to run those, the equipment needed to run that. That's all I'm trying to look at. So that's part of my ask tonight. I think I asked it offline, but I want to get out there in public. When we talk about the personnel details, let's dovetail back to that. I think this is the end of it, because for 7 years I've been hearing about the Quint and how we're going to bring it on and how we're planning for it. It's only going to take this many people. Is this the last round of firefighters for that Quint?
It is not. You'll see that in the forecast. We have not reached the end, and that is not different than information you've seen before. So we'll pull out that information and refresh. I do have also on that, and I'm sorry, Councilmember Slink, I forgot to mention it. I do have a quick summary of what staffing a new fire station would cost, basic cost of staffing up a new fire station. Just a reminder that if there was the plan for the Northwest Fire Station was to move the existing staff at the co-located facility to that. So it's staffing for one fire station that would need to be incorporated into a future operations budget. And I do have that on this sheet that I'll pass out.
Well, I think we need more discussion. I'm just telling my colleagues, but again, we're putting money towards the Northwest Fire Station. We've said we've needed it. I'm still concerned that my priority would be to move the current fire station number 2. I think it's in a bad location. It's been identified with the road, so I think we have to do that one. But again, I just wanted to see those figures. I have trouble following this because, again, I hate committing to something not knowing the ramifications down the line, so that's what I'm trying to bring out. I've had this discussion, but firefighters, I'd like to know then how many more we need to round out the current Quint. Same with the Quint equipment. Do we need any more? And then I'd like to see it worked into the budget. Any proposal we have, if we do go to one fire station, or if we go to 2, or if let's say we go to 3. Because again, if we're going to move fire station number 2, do we want to make it bigger? Do we want to add more fire equipment there? Because it services, in my mind, when we talk about location, that the growth of the Northeast and Northwest has doubled. I mean, you have Kitts Creek, you have Providence Place, and you have Breckenridge, which are the 3 largest neighborhoods in Morrisville. So again, that's why we did the redistricting to account for the third of the population increase at that end of town. So that's all I'm trying to say. And then I read, and again, so if we can, that's the ask again. What are we going to go to for the build-out? What's the time frame on that? When do we come to the time frame where we don't, with our current equipment and Quint system, when does that end? Adding firefighters, adding equipment.
Councilmember Schlink, if you're still on that one topic, could I ask a question, piggyback on you?
Sure.
Okay, because it was, I guess I hadn't processed that we're not going from 3 fire stations to 5, we're kind of going to from 3 to 4, if what I'm understanding. So I hadn't really processed the fact that when we have the new Park West Fire Station, what we're calling it, that's actually a new brick and mortar that we're paying fresh, and we need to staff it, and we'll need another Quint engine. Is that accurate?
24/7.
So we'll have 4 main engines instead of 3. So that's already been accounted, and I'm not, or yes?
It will need to be accounted for in an operations budget. It's not part of your fiscal year 2020.
Right.
Forecasting, Councilmember Slink's correct, you would want to forecast those future costs.
Okay, so instead of a Quint concept manning 3 stations, we're going to be manning 4. So I think the original Quint that we were presented in the past is going to shift because it has to be increased by 25% or up to 4 from 3. So that's something I hadn't processed, so I really appreciate you helping us understand that a little bit better because Station 3 becomes Northwest, but Park West is new.
But again, it's not it's a split. That Station 3 is co-located with Cary, so I don't think we probably need more people if we're running our own station, but again, I'll be interested to find out.
Fully staffed.
We are fully staffed there. So it's like Station 2, only it's co-located with 7 is what I just heard from staff. But thank you for indulging me and letting me piggyback on that. But you continue, sir.
And then on one of the questions on page 22, I asked the question, would staff still recommend the Quint system of manning equipment and the new equipment townwide, which the answer is yes. But I find it interesting also that, quoting, the way we deploy our Quint concept, we fully built out using small vehicles at satellite stations to run medical calls. So do we have more satellite stations in vision? And currently, where are our satellite stations?
I think what Chief Criddle is referring to are these new stations.
But again, to me, satellite's different than a full station. That's what I'm trying to say. But I'd like an opportunity to call him and talk to him and ask him questions about this. So I'll give him
I can ask Chief Criddle to be here. I think it would be helpful if all of council members heard from him.
I had in this, I can come back to it, but I saw in the budget expenditure of $50,000 additional for recycling. Is that what I thought? We had a contract with the company. Why are we paying them $50,000 more?
Are we ready to move to expenditures, or do we want to continue with personnel before we answer that question?
You can bring that up at the appropriate time.
Thank
That's
you.
fine.
Thank you.
But I do have then. I also saw an expenditure at the appropriate time to discuss. Are we adding more office space, renting more office space than what we currently are?
Can you tell me what line you're talking about that references?
I thought I saw it in there, another 6,000 square feet, but maybe that was the original.
Maybe the senior programming, which we'll also talk about.
So it's not for additional bodies, which we kind of allude to that we're adding.
Is that all for now on personnel, Councilmember Slink?
Yes. Thank you.
She said no. So for personnel, I would just like to say thank you very much for all the departments for doing their due diligence and determining what they're going to need this year and providing us forecasts into the future. I really appreciate the town manager showing us what we need to do to build the capacity to meet the customer needs and to look into the future. Because I think we've had a pretty tight belt since 2008, and I'm looking forward to, I believe in the past we've had a little graphic of sorts comparing us to our staffing per 1,000, comparing to nearby municipalities. I believe in the past we were leaner than Cary, for example, and when you think about efficiencies of scale, you'd expect that they would have fewer staff per 1,000, but I think we do, and I appreciate the fact that the town manager is presenting a budget that brings us more in line with most efficient service provision. So that's what I have about personnel. I appreciate all of these positions and I support them. And I would also support the positions in the enhanced scenarios as well. because I think it's important to give staff what they feel they need because they know their job. So if anyone has anything else on personnel, I believe that she's content with the discussion we've had so far, and she can also send questions in or speak to staff at a different time. So if we can move to expenditures, that'd be great.
So we'd like to just quickly cover the other personnel requests, which are the same and different. Is we've talked a lot about recruiting and retaining. That are the short story for me is our performance merit pay is behind every other municipality in Wake County, and we continue to fall behind. So I am recommending a change in the percentage for merit from a 2%, 3%, and 4% to 2%, 4%, and 6%. It is less than 1% of our payroll cost based on 100% of performance evaluations, which also does not occur. As council authorized last year for public safety, which was exceptionally effective at recruiting and retaining our public safety police and firefighters, we have other staff in non-public safety positions who are behind our market, and we will lose them. And we will not be able to keep them if I don't have some authority to adjust market pay where it exists. I do not have that answer. Just like last year, we did a very comprehensive study and analysis. It's not just we want to give you more money, but a very thorough, diligent market comparison. Fuquay Varina, Holly Springs, and Raleigh have all done one in the past year. All of them are adjusting their pay scales. When we've adjusted ours, it is not reflected in actual pay for our employees. So those are my other personnel requests, as well as additional part-time staffing, primarily in Parks and Rec, but it also includes some crossing guards at Parkside Valley Elementary School. We are actually already recruiting for those to be ahead of when the school opens, although the money will be in this budget for. We've worked in concert with the principal of Parkside Valley Elementary, expanded hours at MAFC, and then our 3% health care costs, which you've heard, and our local government retirement system increase are all accounted for in this budget.
Excellent. Councilmember Garamella.
Martha, I'll ask you a tough question here. We see only a certain departments here, which we see a lot of attrition, and you can say people come and go, and most, I would be vocal in saying I heard more that in the public safety sector than any other place. So are we looking specifically for them, a special plan, and not generalizing to the rest of the employees, or like so that their retention is not like it is critical than the other ones, but looking at the rate at how the people are leaving there, is it more important to have a special kind of merit pay because their salaries, they're not that high compared to the other, personnel from engineering and development and other areas. So I was just wanted to ask you, how does
Public safety market adjustments and the structure of their pay was changed this year. They've already received that.
Okay, they already got
Yes, that was authorized in the current year's budget. So public safety.
So they are up to.
And I will tell you, it probably stopped people from leaving, and we have been able to accelerate filling our vacant positions.
Okay, good.
It is proven, in my opinion, that it was effective, as well as, candidly, the health care change in the dependent premiums that we were able to accomplish this year. All of those things had dramatic impact, as well as on morale, but and recognizing that they do feel appreciated and recognized for their time and their efforts.
Yeah, that's very good to hear that, because that's where we are seeing a lot of people come in and go, okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the market adjustments that we do for 1/3 of our personnel every year sort of fix it, but then we have to do our merit to keep it in line. So I appreciate that town managers bring that forth.
The adjustments to the pay plan do not correlate to real actual pay adjustments unless you're below. Once you're in the system, unless we do something like market adjustments, we just fall behind. I mean, there's the one municipality out there that indicated, up to 6% for just the average employee, and the averages are still higher than what I'm requesting.
Councilmember Johnson, you had some thoughts on this topic? Councilmember Johnson on the phone?
I'm sorry, I could not unmute quick enough there. Yeah, I do have just a quick comment. I wholeheartedly am behind this overall idea of retaining and recruiting the best employees. And so I appreciate the effort to that end. And merit pay, doing market adjustments and studying is a big part of that. The other piece, Mark, you haven't talked about the health insurance. I know we already talked about it. The Lord came a couple of meetings ago and gave us an update on the changes to our current health or the plan that's going to go into effect in July. So I see significant effort to help our employees, but can we look at maybe adding in the future? I know it's too late for this year, but adding in the future maybe a third option for employees to have even a higher deductible option with like an HSA account, so folks can put money aside and then draw from that to help them if they incur any medical needs during the year. Have you looked at a third option, and why haven't we added one yet?
Probably a longer discussion than for tonight. Lori is here, Councilmember Johnson. There had not until probably very recently been a lot of interest in that by our employees. The adjustment in the dependent health care premiums has been received very favorably. Just a reminder that everybody should do their open enrollment by May 15th if you are part of the plan and haven't done that yet. But we've gotten really good feedback. We had a whole series of meetings with the employees, and just again, a transition to a base plan can save you almost $5,000 in covering a family. So choice and opportunity there for our employees. But we can provide some additional information on that if it's okay in the FAQs.
That'd be perfect. And like I said, I know, it's not going to happen this year, but I'd like some information, and maybe moving forward as the organization grows, there may be a need. But okay, I appreciate that. That seems fine. But again, thank you for the effort on reducing the cost for our employees for the family benefit. I appreciate that.
Okay, I think other personnel details, we're done with that. And what's next, Ms. Hooks?
Okay, so we're going to move on to other expenditures and operations. I'm going to refer you to page 28. That's your expenditure priority summary. That summarizes every initiative that's deemed a priority that the town manager has included in this budget. Gives a lot of context to the numbers. Very good information. The other page that I'm going to refer you to so that you can kind of connect what I'm putting on the screen in the next 4 slides at a high level by department, the department profiles that start on page 59 show how these priorities attach to departments and affect their budgets. So you'll see a historic actual as compared to the budget ask that are shown for 3 years out. So it goes back to 2017. That's the evaluation window that we publish in the budget. So the next one, let's see, slide 27 through, Oh, you do not. Okay, sorry. I printed the note sheet. So the next 4 slides are really about operations, and I'm going to go through those at a real high level, and I think I'll open it up to the ones you want to talk about instead of touching on every single one. I think that'll be a more efficient approach if everyone's okay with that. Okay. Ready? All right. So the first 2 that we have on this particular slide are governing body and administration. So there's been several priorities that we've included here. The most significant is putting aside for future reserves. Remember I told you about 1.2 million was being set aside for future reserves. The other one is we are now have established a new department, communications and outreach. Originally was housed, some of those personnel were housed in administration. We are pulling those out separate for tracking and efficiency. That department, again, is doing some civic engagement tools and enhancements. Information technology and development services. Information technology, the most significant one here are those hardware replacement that they plan for. They have a replacement plan that identifies future needs and replacement to keep our technology stock up to speed. That's about $111,000. We're also going to be doing some really interesting things in initiating smart cities and open data. So that's very important. And also doing what I call a really thorough network assessment to really gauge how our environment is functioning and how it's secure. That's a different type of assessment as compared to your security assessment that we did a couple of years ago. Development services, a really interesting one here is the street light data analytics. Again, that's using data to make really good decisions so that we're getting this subscription that's pretty substantial investment to be able to bring valued information when you have new development that's occurring. And then we're, of course, doing the census and investing in other technology tools that help us track and monitor and report better projects. Oh.
Can you speak about the streetlight data advanced analytics? Because I saw one of the ticker items was cameras for the signal lighting so that they can be viewed. So is that different?
Yeah, there are 2 different things. The one that I think you're mentioning now is traffic preemption to allow our public safety vehicles to signal traffic lights as they come through and have priority. This references some data that we actually used as a part of our land use plan and public transit studies, but that gives us real-time information. And Courtney and I believe Ben may have mentioned it as part of those initial discussions. This gives us real information, almost real-time, about traffic counts at times of day, et cetera, throughout town. Sort of complements TIAs, but helps inform and drive decisions based on real information, not something that gets pulled and studied.
So, yes, that's what I was talking about. So why does the name streetlight? I didn't get the name.
That I can't
answer. That's where
answer.
it's confusing for me. Like that's the reason I said traffic lights.
Okay,
but I can find out.
So the last 2, Public Works and Police, actually there's a couple more. Public Works and Police, again, we're continuing the proactive street maintenance that Jim Grimstead actually reported about. That's a positive advantage. It's something you set in motion several years ago that we're continuing. Certainly puts us in the right place to try to address those road maintenance and repair issues. It's currently totaling almost $1.7 million of money in your budget that's dedicated to roadway maintenance and repairs. And that's a combination of your power bill funds, your vehicle decal revenues, and just other revenues that we have typically put in there. But you've increased it over the years as a result of that $300,000 of proactive maintenance.
So Councilmember Rao had his hand up, and then Councilmember Garamilla.
Years ago, Town Manager Page initiated the internal IT review committee, which has worked very well in terms of getting our departments to work together to assess our technology needs. Will that as we look at our smart city assessments, and when you went up there, their innovation, smart city assessments and open data portal, I'm assuming that these issues in terms of smart cities will also be brought by the internal committee, from a departmental view, right? So when we look at smart cities, it would be cross-departmental, like a department might say, like we talked about transportation, but it could be something in public works, another department. Would that be an ongoing process moving forward as we work with our?
So one of the things that we asked Rick to do when we hired him was take that 90 days to sort of do his overall strategic assessment of the department and our needs. He'll be coming up on that towards the end of the year, so I expect he'll actually be coming and speaking directly to council about what he sees. I'm guessing, because he hasn't finished that work yet, he may set up a separate internal, and it may not just be internal, I don't know. We're allowing him to do his work without sort of pushing him one way or another. But he'll be coming back to council to report on some of that information.
Councilmember Garamella.
Next slide. Yeah. The Pooh House renovation, what are we planning to do? Can the staff use it? Because every time I see like the future use of it, and is there like staff can use it as a one department or anything where they can host, because it's just walkable from here?
So the repairs that were done this year were, I'll call it primarily external, and getting it, sort of restoring it to being protected. So right now, utilities are being put into the house, heat, all of those things that would be one of the steps to making it functional. The money proposed for this year is to return it to a state of usability internal. It's really a shell. The significant influence on that is no parking. So I do believe that the uses that could potentially be available for that might be some kind of internal use by the department, a chamber of commerce. It's not going to be a commercial type of facility because it can't support the parking. But the money proposed for this budget is to do that last assessment and suggest that perhaps it could be used for town use of some kind.
Yeah, that would be useful because it's talking about the internal but not giving what it is getting used for. That would be very helpful.
I believe that's a decision staff should make, that we want to provide you the information so that council could make that. We'll make our best recommendation, but that's a discussion for council to have about how to use that facility.
Yeah, absolutely. And the body-worn cameras, I think around 34, 36, is that the staff, total number of police officers, one per this one, or is it through the shift that we do?
It is one per.
One per. And does this replace the dash cam, or it doesn't?
Complements dash cam. Currently, the car cameras, if an officer is called outside of the view of the car camera, they're not protected, nor is the citizen protected by any video coverage. There is a robust policy, internal usage policy, et cetera, associated with implementation of body-worn cameras, as well as training for the officers.
And Parkside, I saw it says 4 crossing guards. Is that because the school principal communicated that there will be 2 areas where it will be monitored. So the 4 crossing guards, I was not sure if it is 2 per location or total 4 locations that the crossing guards are using.
I don't have that detail. We'll add that information into the FAQ.
And I saw the electronic parking tickets. We've made $20,000. What does that number of tickets equate to? The $20,000 in revenue from the parking tickets, how many tickets does that equate to? And do you project that going up or going down? Because we are investing on this one with an anticipation that 50,000 or something, I think, right? If I gotta remember.
The parking system is 40,000. So remember, that's a one-time investment over years that we would be able to use that system. The goal of our parking program is not to make money. It is to enforce, but fines and penalties sometimes help with that. As we continue to explore our parking program, this just creates efficiencies, again, for the officers as well as for the logging, tracking, appealing, paying tickets.
So I remember last time there was a company which was hired to do the incoming, like when someone wants to pay a ticket, there was a system that they go through, right? Different than what we had. Is that going to get replaced with this one, and that whole system will no longer be existing?
The customer still has to do a lot of work to pay their ticket.
And the question while reading the thing was, is this tracked a different way? Because these are non-movable offenses. That's what I understand is like. So is it tracked in a different system, not through the Wake County, overall, where you get a movable violation? Are there two?
That is correct.
Systems?
These are not mobile violations. These are parking citations.
So that's totally internal.
Correct. These are civil.
Okay.
Which is part of the challenge of collecting. Okay. But there's a lot of paperwork and intensive work. A manual ticket is written out in the field, and then we're doing duplicative efforts in the office in order to get those into a system and processed and paid. This would eliminate all of that work.
No, that's good to know because I didn't get it. Touch wood, but I wanted to know if it's paper, then it makes more sense to make it out. Okay. That's for now.
Councilmember Schling, please.
The Pew House renovation, I know that's been around for years. I mean, at one point, there was talk of that we were talking about selling it on the open market due to the limitations with parking. So I would be interested. I know the I understand that when we were, years ago, the Pew House had asbestos and lead paint and things like that on the inside, and they thought it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars to renovate it on the inside. Is that what this study's going to find out?
The money proposed for that is not just a study. In fact, asbestos is part of the work this year, so it's not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No. Overall, to bring it up to a standard that you could put somebody inside. I'm saying this is, again, years ago, but is that what you're proposing now with the payment to that, what you're saying, whatever we're going to do, then it can be ready to use?
It could be ready to use. I mean, we would have to come back to council to check on that. But what needs to be done to make it functional is important to the uses that you can consider. So, for example, it is not ADA compliant. So that limits uses, as does a variety of other things, the residential and the parking and the structure of the house, what we can and can't do. That's the primary goal of what do we do with this house, is evaluating that so you have the information to make a decision.
So it's still on the table that we could turn it over.
Council has not determined, you're correct. We've talked periodically about keep or sell, and there's been no interest in a sell, but that doesn't mean we couldn't pursue that. It's limited because of the parking.
So again, okay, I'm sorry, it's probably in there. How much are we proposing to spend on it to future use consideration?
$75,000.
That's all it takes.
Well, that's what this round is about.
114 in this year's budget. Is that?
Yes, that's correct.
114 this year's budget. And then you said that we'll get it ready so we could run an office out of it if we wanted to.
Well, 114 has been invested to protect the asset this year, or work is in progress. This is an additional 75 to address the interior issues.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get to, the inside. Okay, and that will, what we think will bring it up, get rid of, okay.
Answer your recycling question now. It is one of the ones that I wanted to pull out. So Councilmember Schlink is correct. There's I believe it's $55,000 to reflect the increased costs of recycling. Again, this is not a Morrisville issue. This isn't even a Wake County issue. This is a nationwide issue with the commodities markets that do not exist for recyclables anymore. So we were presented with this cost increase. The contract allows for these cost increase. So we pay for the cost of the recycling. What had been happening is some revenues were offsetting that cost to us, but those revenues do not exist anymore. So we have to cover those costs, and that's reflective of just the cost of the increased recycling. We already take into account as a part of our forecast that we continue to add houses. So that's the true cost of just the increased cost of recycling. It's also part of why there's a recommendation to really evaluate the solid waste program. When we signed this contract several years ago, as you may recall, there was lots of debate over weekly or biweekly recycling. Again, I'm not recommending anything at this point because we haven't started pulling the data, but that would be something that is a policy decision that council would want to talk. That's really the only true way at this point if you want to reduce the cost of that recycling. And based on that past conversation, it was not a recommendation I made as a part of this budget. Again, all of the municipalities are having this problem. At our last Wake managers meeting, the Wake County managers met and we're working with Triangle J to form a work group to talk about this. We are all submitting our solid waste so that we can perhaps regionally collaborate on options and solutions about the recycling. But it does not appear those commodity markets are going to come back. So it's not a wait and see type of situation. But it's a reason why solid waste is probably a bigger topic of conversation for us in the future.
Along that same line then, is it appropriate then when's it appropriate to discuss going to biweekly, let's say? Is it, with the contract the way it's written, can we do it now since we're giving them additional money, or do you have to wait at a certain time frame to do it?
I think that we always talk with them, and we could if that's the way council directs.
Okay, I'd be interested in finding out from their perspective how long it takes to, let's say we had discussions with them and we wanted to implement it at the first of the year. Do they want to do it at the first of the year, or do they want to do it at a...
And so I'd like council to weigh in, with all due respect, on whether they want us to have that conversation with our solid waste provider before we start that conversation. I'm just concerned as they start making those adjustments. This would be a huge conversation with our residents, as well as just the logistical requirements.
Right, I'm just asking though, what's the time frame if something like that could happen? What's the lag time that they need in order to do it? And that's fine. My other thing then, I guess, since I put them together, was the additional office space. So there's nothing in the budget for an additional office space outside of the 6,000 square feet we're already using for Parks and Rec. And is there a long-term plan to put a building up that would be 6,000 square feet for them?
So one of the questions that is asked in the FAQ is related to public safety space needs. So that's in the FAQ. That is work that we're evaluating now. We again, that's why some of the forecasting, and it's not just people, it's all the stuff that goes along with public safety to address their needs. And it also includes other things like access to buildings and where they're located, et cetera. So all of that is going on now that we're coming up upon the end of that to launch the next wave of discussions that you have as you consider other parts of the conversation you're having about our space needs. It is my belief that there are several options out there. One could be part of discussion of a future fire station or other facilities that you're talking about, that could be incorporated in. If police and fire administration, and in that I'm incorporating fire prevention, the future, I believe the future staff needs for other staff would be accommodated in our town hall campus, and that's sort of what it says in that FAQ. But that work is going on. So there's no additional request for money there. The base budget does at this point include Parks and Rec remaining at the location they are for up to 2 more years while we continue to have those discussions. The additional space request that's included in this year's budget is a proposed allocation of money to potentially find leased space available that could accommodate an expanded senior programming space, which is estimated at about 4,000 square feet, and associated staffing and cost for an expanded seniors program.
1,000 square feet include manning?
Include what?
Manning for that space.
Staffing?
Yeah.
The $168,000 recommended does include some part-time staffing, yes.
Councilmember Garamella.
To go back to the solid waste discussion, like 50,000 or 55,000, which has been added, is that reoccurring every year, or is it like a one-time expense?
So those rates get looked at as a part of our annual contract cost CPI adjustment. In this case, we've known that recycling, the market just dramatically changed. And again, the contract provides for those kinds of changes. It's in some ways similar to the fuel surcharge things that occurred in contracts in the past when the cost of gasoline started to dramatically change. So there are those provisions, but it's typically done once a year.
So, and then the question is, I remember when this contract was done with waste management, when is it up? Where we know that they will come up with new numbers, or is this a gradual increase that as part of the market adjustment that they are stepping up 55, and that will continue, or at the end of the contract when we have to renew the contract, are they going with new numbers completely, and this is not even going to supplement to that number?
So we signed a 10-year contract. Mm-hmm. So we're 4 years into that contract.
So yes, 6 years.
Correct. Right. And there are periodic years that we can evaluate, and I could check in that information. But again, the contract allows for those rate increases along with CPI. The recycling is that different nuance this year.
No. And do they give a guarantee for 1 year, or every time they'll come tomorrow or next 3 years they come and say 75 or 80?
This is a 1-year rate. This is a commitment for the 1-year rate. I cannot speak to beyond that. Okay. And they are not willing to commit beyond that because they do not know what the commodities market will be, or that there will even be a market for recyclables anywhere. One of the things that we heard in our presentation, that it was the state that came in, they're promoting awareness and education, and these are things that we might be able to do. Of one of the reasons why costs are higher and higher is contamination of the recycling stream. So that's educational efforts that we can provide that would help with some of those cost things. But the state is advocating developing businesses that will use recycled products. So that's more at a state level, but they're looking to establish the markets for the use of the recycled markets in the United States. And so that's their focus on this broader issue.
So initially you started the point which I liked was the number of housing is also increasing, so you pretty much think it's kind of a wash. But the apartments are commercial, right? We do not handle that as part of the regular thing. So this is purely talking about the residential component of it, which is single-family town.
That is correct.
Okay,
There are some of our residential areas that we provide dumpster service, but they are residential, not apartment.
Okay. And have you seen, because the commercial sector, there's no contract, did you see an increase in that as part of Morrisville? Because I know we don't track it, but it is important when we have. They don't. No, they do. Like a lot of Cisco's and a lot of the companies have both recycling cans and this one. So that's the reason I was asking if that. Yeah. So is that because 53% is commercial in Morrisville? So that's the reason I was asking that. Okay. Yeah, the space need, I read about it. I didn't. This was the first time I heard about it. So that was
You're talking about
the senior citizens.
Okay.
So I did not see from which area did you get as part of the feedback. So the 5,000, because we are working on the Christian church and spending money towards it. And is that facility being, you think, projected will be used for the senior citizen programming, or pretty much?
It is not big enough.
So pretty much, is it because I
it could
remember
be
last
used
time
for some programs, but not to house the senior program. So this stems from the discussions, the CIP discussions about a senior facility and meeting the needs of that group. So it's not a new conversation. In fact, there's been a senior facility as a part of the CIP for a number of years. This is a proposal of a way to meet the programming needs outside of waiting for a building to be constructed. I will acknowledge to you, this would not fund something as big as what they would like to have to accommodate all of their needs. And I've shared that directly with the Senior Advisory Committee. But it would allow them to accommodate the programs they have now and not be moved around based on our other activities, et cetera, and allow expanded programming in that area as well, which is identified as an unmet need for the town of Morrisville.
So just piggybacking on back of it, we know that we require space for Parks and Recs too, so is there any added value to have both together? Because that's how Morrisville, Cedar Fork Community Center is used for, because this is specific for seniors, then why not add it 5,000, 10,000, and so that it can be multi-purpose? Because we have also heard we don't have a place for gathering. So that's the reason I was coming from.
So that is one of the options we're exploring. Our most significant challenge with even finding space that accommodates their needs will be parking ratios. Is the typical parking ratio for any kind of space in a commercial building is 1 space per 1,000 feet. So that would give us 4 parking spaces. That is not going to meet the needs of a senior programming. So this is a significant challenge, but we are exploring what those options are.
Councilmember Rao.
In terms of the solid waste discussion, are we going to have, and maybe you already mentioned this, separate work sessions on that as we look at options? Because I know in the past we've had different options, like different models, like Merck has considered, like pay as you throw and other options, and staff has evaluated that as they came back. They said we're not interested. I've noticed that Raleigh and other cities are looking at different models. So as you talk about working with different cities and Triangle J, would that be a part of the process of looking at innovative ways to promote sustainability, encourage more recycling?
Sir, I agree with you that a discussion of our solid waste and charging a fee does not preclude also looking at other ways to meet our solid waste needs. One of the other, and I forgot to mention this, so you've prompted me, one of the other components of recycling that we have or do plan to implement is a separate textile recycling that the program itself is no cost as long as we don't want to invest heavily in advertising the program outside of what our town resources would be and what they provide up front of the program. We wanted to verify that that did not conflict with our solid waste contract, and we have confirmed that. But it's just it's a separate program to get some of the textiles out of the stream that we would also plan to implement. It doesn't change our recycling cost. I already asked that.
A new program cost, or
It's being offered at no cost unless we promote it. So there's limited communications from the company, and then it's up to the resident to follow through on that textile recycling.
Okay, I think, thank you for taking us through those slides. I think people have asked the questions that they needed on those.
Mayor, if I may, just a couple people have asked a couple times about the litter program and proposal. So I just want to clarify. The base budget includes a recommended allocation of $13,000 to support, I'll call it a basic level of service where we would contract with some people to pick up litter on our roadways, targeted areas, for example, 2 days, whatever you can get. The enhanced scenario adds additional resources to make more of an impact. So it is two different allocations, a basic level and then a little bit more in the two different scenarios.
Councilmember Garamella.
Yeah, it would have been better if you had put $13,001 instead of $13,000. That was like pretty much equal, so that was confusing.
For next year.
Councilmember Johnson on the phone, please.
Thank you, and I'll just the detail that Councilmember Johnson references is it starts on page 28, and it's a snapshot of all of these requests, and sort of try to strike that balance of the information you need to know without all of the robust detail behind it. But we are always happy to amplify any of these based on council members' questions. I think we probably have touched on the big ones, but if council would review those priority lists and again send Jeannie and/or I an email of questions, I think it really does help each of you. If you, it may not be just a question you have that we can put it in that document and get it out, circulated out to all of you. So if you would do that, over the next several days, then we have time to get this around to you before our next discussion on May 28th.
Okay, that sounds great. Do you have more slides? I see one.
So I've put up the enhanced scenario options for you. Martha's actually gone over one of them, clarifying the difference in what's in the original ask for the litter and then what is actually referenced in one of the scenarios. So are there any questions on the scenario options that you would like us to cover? I did include in the Q&A, the FAQ, breakdown of the recurring versus non-recurring for the 1 cent and the 2 cent increments so that you can see that in just a quick, easy table. Okay. But it's also included in your budget. It's broken down. It just provides narrative detail with it.
Okay, and just generally the idea, because in the past we have asked, what would you do if you had more resources? And these is filtered up through the department requests, and they just didn't make it into the balanced budget that didn't have any property tax increase. Is that an accurate way to assess this? Okay. That being said, the fact that they came up through the departments and that they're in need, maybe not totally urgent right now, but I think that they can help us build our capacity. I would support both of these. And we don't have to say yes or no right now, but if anyone has any questions about any of these items or if they feel strongly about any of them being in there, sooner rather than later is good to sort of let them know. Because we can make adjustments without doing a cent scenario. We could take more out of fund balance if any of these line items are felt to be especially important. So does anyone have any thoughts about these options at this time? Councilmember Rao.
Considering all options as always, my only concern is that we are, and I've got to go through and look at this budget like everyone before we vote on it, but when you look at a 1 cent or 2 cent scenario, we also are discussing a bond in 2020, which would, and although that's different, it's capital projects or whether it's a transportation bond, that could be a tax increase. And then you've got the Wake County 6.5 cents. So I just think that's something that we have to consider, because if we're going to increase the tax to go to a specific project, I mean, if we increase the tax and then pass a bond and increase it again, but I mean, I just sort of like, for me, it's the sequence and the timing, but is there a need? Yes. That's just where my thoughts are.
Councilmember Schlenk.
As we do every year, I think it's a priority list. Right, I've said that before. It's needs and wants, and then we talk about reevaluation and taking the 4 cents there, so that's a tax increase too. So all of a sudden we're at 6 cents increase without a bond referendum. So, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, but yes, that's what happened before with the reevaluation. If you don't go to you show the public revenue neutral. If you don't go to revenue neutral, a lot of people look at that as a tax increase.
Right. So
yeah. Okay.
So it's numbers, but it's the revenue.
You're right. And then you want to have a bond referendum, and then as Councilmember Rao indicated, Wake County's been increasing taxes every year, and at some point, I'm just saying, to me, it's a priority thing. What do we do? Are we as back with roads? Why don't we see roads in here? The airport. To me, fire station number 2 is more valuable to move. Talking about moving that than. But again, I have to sit down and understand it better with the chief. Performance measures are put on us. I would like a better comparison maybe to what is done nationwide, countywide around here. Things like that. How does mutual aid impact those performance evaluation objectives that we have? If we didn't do all the mutual aid, wouldn't that reflect then we could provide service to our employees or our town better, things like that.
There are FAQs regarding the Wake County budget and how it sort of relates to ours. There's an FAQ related to Airport Boulevard that Councilmember Sink just mentioned. And again, as he also mentioned, he asked a series of questions about fire that you now have to adequately prepare and participate in that conversation. And again, we'll ask Chief Criddle to be here to talk with you directly next time as well.
And a couple of things that you mentioned, Councilmember Schlink, are kind of CIP, big picture, and that's why it's so nice that staff's been presenting that to us over the last few months so that we can get our mind around it. And those will have budget impacts as we go forward and the priorities and how we move those things. So I'm in agreement that these are big discussions that we have to have. We also just did a transportation plan and a Parks and Rec master plan, which indicated that we do have outstanding needs that we're not keeping up with due to our growth. So at what point do we want to start trying to match the needs with our property tax rate? Since 2008, we've been keeping it slow. Now we're trying to build capacity, but we also need to fund capacity in order to meet the needs. It's not just about staffing up. So that's just my approach, that if we want to sort of flatten out our needs going forward, which are growing, meeting these needs here, some of which are recurring, some of which are one-time, would give us a little more capacity next year as well. And I am concerned that Wake County is doing a pretty substantial tax increase, or they're proposing it, and people will look at their bigger tax bill, and we might be a little bit of part of that. But if people want to live in a place where quality of life is being enhanced year to year, I think of this as like, if this was the last budget I get to affect, would I want to change the trajectory of the town to provide more services? I don't think anyone wants fewer services. I don't think we can go wrong by giving the departments what they need in order to provide the best possible efficient service. So that's kind of how I'm approaching it. We don't operate in a vacuum. If Wake County raises their taxes, the tax bills of our residents are going to go up. How does that deter us from providing them what they want from us, as Wake County provides what they're being asked for? So that's my general overlook at that. Does anyone have any other thoughts on any of the items that's been presented tonight? Because I think it seems like staff has got what they need from us this evening. Is that accurate?
We are at the point of fund balance would be the next slide, and it's 9:30, so it's something easy we can cover the next time. And what I would put in front of you or ask you to start preparing for the next conversation is if there's anything else that we need to be talking about, we need to put it on the table the next time. So while we're just have fund balance left, let's make sure that you're thinking about what other information do you need in order to make a decision. And so that you're giving it to us on the 28th, and then hopefully we could provide you something by at least the 30th, turn it around as quick as possible. Okay.
There's an appetite to call it a night tonight, but one thing I would like to put out there is that using the enhanced scenarios is still on the table. It's not that we're not considering this. So if we come back on the 28th and people are saying, well, we didn't tell people that we might be using that enhanced scenario, we can't do it now, that's doing the townspeople a disservice. I would love to hear from people from the town through the budget portal if they're very much against having these additional services that have been requested. I don't think we should preclude incorporating this enhanced scenario. It's got to be up to us about where we want to take the town. That's our job. So whether or not we hear from people or not, it's up to us whether or not these enhanced scenarios will improve the town in such a way that we feel we're giving the best possible service and programs for our people. Because sometimes it seems like we get to the point where, oh, it's too late. We can't do it now. I'd hate to think that we put ourselves in that position. Okay, so no other thoughts? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Actually, did you want to do those roundtable updates? Okay, how long do you think that would take? Because we sort of put them off from last time. It's just reporting back to us, though.
So, yeah, so that the conversation will be more difficult with two members missing. Kathy's here. The information to share is on the social media policy and the town hall forum that that were roundtable topics. And then there's been a series of other things we've talked about: code of ethics, code of conduct, public address, closed sessions, that we had some information. It's council's decision to make as to whether they want to talk about it now or not. But I wouldn't be able to, depends on your conversation about how much you'd want to talk about it.
Could I propose, is this something that you could email to us and we could take a look at in advance, or you pretty much need to present it to give us context?
I am more than happy to send it, recognizing it's context only. It still requires discussion. It's not an answer, but it's Kathy's done a lot of research, feedback. She's made some recommendations. We can take those and draft. Have you drafted anything? So she would be able to provide you with a draft to make edits and comments. That I would propose, though, in May, we sort of pegged May 30th for the May roundtable. So I would propose not adding it to the May 28th. We need to work. Budget needs to be our priority. As important as those things are, budget needs to be a priority. And if you would endorse a social media policy, we could still have that turned around for you for a June meeting if that's what you preferred. So those 2 days wouldn't matter. But I'd request budget be the priority for May 28th, not a roundtable discussion.
Councilmember Rao has a thought?
I'm fine with that. Waiting and input. I just wanted to see, I'm going to defer to your role as mayor, but we recently just had a resignation of a council member, and I would feel comfortable if I could make a statement responding to some of the things that were said, because there are people listening tonight, if that would be okay. Or would you prefer waiting to the next meeting? Because
I think it'd be better to wait till the next meeting. That was a little bit long, and I don't want us all to feel the need to respond to everything every time.
Because I just feel like, and the only reason why I say that is, okay, let me just say this for the public that's watching or listening. All I will say is that, okay, I'll keep it to one sentence, but I'll make a longer statement at the next meeting. But I do want to thank Councilmember Wendell for his service on the council and for his service to the country. And I do not believe that any of my colleagues are capable of hate or discrimination, including Councilmember Schlink. I do believe that we have misunderstandings often as colleagues, and we have to deal with this in a professional way. And I think there are circumstances that have led us to this point. And I just want to say that to the public because, what happened tonight wasn't a good thing, but we need to address it moving forward. And I can get into the details of how we do that, but I think something has to be said because it's been a very disruptive year and a half. And I think we've got real opportunities and real challenges, and we need to step up as a town and council and start solving them and doing it. So,
thank you for sharing that. So about moving to the roundtables, concentrating on budget first. Is everyone okay with that, as proposed by the town manager?
Absolutely, if I may. Absolutely, because we have Vicky and Liz missing too, and it was Liz who started the thing. So she has more data than us to present into it. Obviously, Kathy and all the town manager are working on it. So yeah, absolutely.
Great. Councilmember Johnson on the phone. Thoughts? Thank you very much, Councilmember Johnson. We appreciate it. Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. It is 9:42. We are adjourned. Thank you. Now we're at item number 9, action items. There's one action item this evening, and it will be followed by the items taken off the consent agenda. First item is 9A. It's consideration of items related to the annexation of property located near the southwest corner of Morrisville Carpenter Road and Davis Drive. Council will be briefed on this item and asked to take action on resolutions A and B this evening. I'll invite Chris Lawson, Planner 2, to the podium for updates. Mr. Lawson.
All right, good evening, Council. I'm presenting item 2019-990. This agenda item is a request for voluntary annexation into the town's corporate limits. So the annexation request is for roughly 18.5 acres of land located near the southwest corner of Morrisville Carpenter Road and Davis Drive. The subject property is shown outlined in red, and this property was a part of the Wood Partners rezoning approved in February. So this property is located within the town's extraterritorial jurisdiction and is zoned Conditional Neighborhood Activity Center. There's currently one single-family home on site, and the property owners wish to annex in order to connect to water and sewer services. Town staff recommends approval of the annexation for the following reasons. The town has historically honored voluntary annexation requests. The petition meets all statutory requirements. It would expand the town's tax base, and with the increase in tax base, the annexation can improve the economies of scale and the delivery of town services. So this evening, Council is asked to act on resolutions A and B, asking staff to investigate the sufficiency of the annexation petition and to set a public hearing date of May 28th. At your May 28th meeting, after the public hearing, Council will be asked to consider the annexation and should either approve or deny the annexation. Consideration of annexations is legislative and discretionary. That is all I have for you tonight. As a reminder, Council is asked to act on resolutions A and B. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Okay. Before we get to questions, I just want to say that this is generally how it works. An applicant will ask for a rezoning, and then after that's approved, they'll go ahead and do the annexation. So this is our typical process. Anyone have any questions about this? Councilmember Garamella.
Can you go back to that 18.5 acres? Yes. The one to the left, I don't know. Yes, that part. Is that part of Morrisville or?
Yeah, it was previously annexed.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure because I know as part of that they were putting a screening and all kinds of stuff was involved in the property. So I just
So that property was part of the rezoning. But it was already annexed, so it's not part of this request.
Okay, got it.
No others, if you'd probably bring up those two actions.
One question.
Sorry,
Go back to
Councilmember
the
Schlenk.
picture, sorry. One parcel of the residential below the CVS, so that's outside our jurisdiction currently.
It's in the ETJ, but it's not part of corporate limits. Right.
Okay. So seeing no others, I'd entertain a motion for first resolution A. Read that whole thing, I think. Correct?
Sure.
I move that we approve. Just do both at the same time.
No, just the first one first.
Okay. I move that we approve. excuse me. I move that we approve Resolution 2019-99 OA of the Morrisville Town Council pertaining to the sufficiency of the petition to extend the town of Morrisville corporate limits to include property located near the southwest corner of Morrisville Carpenter Road and Davis Drive.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously, 5-0.
I move that we approve Resolution 2019-99 OB of the Morrisville Town Council setting a date for a public hearing on the question of voluntary annexation petition for property located near the southwest corner of Morrisville Carpenter Road and Davis Drive, with the public hearing being held on May 28th, 2019.
Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that also carries 5-0. Thank you very much. So we look forward to the public hearing in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. Now we are continuing with the action items. The next one that we're going to look at is 6B, resolution approving the award of FY19 paving project number 1. I'd request Jim Grimstead, our acting Public Works Director, to come to the dais to answer any of our questions.
Same kind of thing. I guess the big one is it's $1.4 million before it goes out to bid, so it could come back a little higher, a little lower.
No, it's already gone out to bid.
Oh, okay.
As a matter of fact, we we had closed bids opened last Monday at 2 p.m. We had 5 of the best companies in town bid on it. Barnhill, Fred Smith, Carolina Sunrock, Rushton, and S.T. Wooten. The prices ranged from $1,489,000 to $1,960,000, round numbers. Barnhill was the low price. I think that we had a real competitive bidding process because most of those companies are working in town right now and want to continue working. Makes it easier for them to move their equipment around and everything. We have that money in the Public Works budget for road maintenance. I originally had 16 roads picked out. We're going to do 13 of them. There are 13 that were on our radar and the payment condition report of 2016. They didn't get any better in between there and the one we had done this past winter in early February. The only reason we didn't do the other ones was just budget constraints. We will add those in next year. Staff recommends that we approve doing the project. This year we're doing it a little bit later, but we're going to still aim to get it all done by August the 30th.
Okay, great. One, I guess, quick question. And you kind of answered it. The payment report showed that because we had a priority list, right, in the past?
Yes, sir.
These are some of the ones that are priority?
These are the ones that we picked off. It's not, these roads are not in the condition that Perimeter Park was that we spent the last 2 years doing. So some of these roads are in a little better shape. It's a little more of the proactive payment work. We're trying to stay ahead of the curve and get the most bang for our bucks. And I feel like that we've as long as we don't run into any unforeseen problems out there, we'll get all these roads done under the budget.
And how much of this is Powell money that we get every year from the?
Powell bill is about 590. And
so that's part of this 1.4
yes,
roughly is.
Yes, sir.
Some of that is that all that more.
Yep.
Okay, then there's no conflict with trying to move the other ones that we use, the neighborhoods that have the
MSDs?
Yes.
That's a different fund.
Right, it's a different fund of money, but there's, okay, I don't want those people those neighborhoods to feel that they're getting shortchanged, right?
Right, they're not.
Okay.
Yes.
Great, thank you very much.
All right.
Councilman Rao.
I've been getting some complaints recently of just more potholes on some of our major roads. So if citizens are concerned about those, do we just tell them to, well, there's a few new ones on Morrisville Carpenter Road that have been there for a while. So is that something they just call?
Morrisville Carpenter?
Yeah, just a couple I've noticed.
Well, we try to work with DOT to get them, that's a DOT road. And so we are in contact with DOT. We do what they call throw and go, or we do Band-Aid patching on DOT roads, but we don't have a budget to do repair work on Morrisville Carpenter Road.
Okay, so that would be, so if you're listening tonight and you're watching this online, if you see a pothole, just make sure you contact, is there a contact we can give them to the DOT?
Yes, we have it on our website.
Okay.
On Public Works. And they will get a email response back that DOT's gotten that. And we field them for people that call and let us know at Public Works. And also we do a Monday morning sweep, and we try to capture all the potholes that we're seeing develop, things, especially when we have a winter like we had. It wasn't a whole lot of ice and snow, but it's been very wet, and it causes the road to come apart. So things pop up fairly quickly. We had some on Morrisville Parkway that's been an ongoing problem on the median side of the westbound lane as you're going towards Bristol Creek. We try to let DOT know and get them in here when they're out doing patching.
I know Raleigh has some kind of app called C-Click Fix. I don't know whether that's for city roads, but it'd be nice eventually, as we look at improving our technology, having some kind of an app. I mean, we can go to the website, but something more real time where, a certain amount of time they can come out and.
We get C-Click Fix. I think that's from a clearinghouse, and anybody can add that app and hit it, and it feeds it out. We try to respond to those, but there's nobody to directly respond to. It just goes up on the.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, next is Councilmember Garamella, and then Councilmember Johnson, please.
Jim, congratulations on your new title. Man, we are very proud, because if this is one area that we know all our streets are 100% intact, and there's no better person than you who knows the conditions of our roads. Thanks, and looking forward. And you said by August 30th this will be complete?
That's what we're shooting for. Thank you.
That's perfect. Good. Thank you so much.
Okay, Councilmember Johnson.
Hello, Mayor, can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. I've had my end on mute, so I don't have any conflicting noise. But just wanted to add my 2 cents of thanks to Jim on this project. I'm bringing this forward. We talk a lot about road connectivity, road connections, widening of roads, and that's very important in the town of Morrisville, but so is this. Our maintenance of our roads is of equal importance, so I just wanted to add my 2 cents and my thanks for bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Okay, seeing no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve this resolution. So moved from Satishkan, and a second from Councilmember Schlink. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, that passes unanimously 5-0 as well. You're just about at 7 p.m. for public address. Do we have anyone signed up for public address? Council okay getting that started a couple minutes early?
Yeah, let's keep moving it.
Started at 6 o'clock.
Okay. I would just like to note that effective with the January 8th meeting earlier this year, the public address period will now begin at 7 p.m. approximately. If council is hearing another item during that time, staff will complete that item and receive public address for up to 30 minutes, then resume regular item discussion at the end of the public address period. So we are now at the time for public address. Members of the public may sign up to speak and will be provided 3 minutes each to share. To be fair and respectful of everyone's time, I'll thank speakers when 3 minutes have elapsed and ask them to conclude their thought. Speakers can then provide any additional thoughts in writing via email to the town clerk or the council at their convenience. As a reminder, speakers should be courteous in their language and presentation and will not discuss matters that are the subject of public hearings scheduled on the current agenda. Thank you for your cooperation. We have no public hearings tonight. Our first public address speaker is Bob Butler. If you could please come to the mic and let us know your city and your discussion topic. Your address.
My name is Bob Butler, and I am the Bob Butler that actually lives in Morrisville. And I do so at 112 Leecroft Way. Mayor, town council, staff. I'd like to paraphrase Mark Anthony, the historic figure, not the singer. And I'd like to say, I come not to bury Morrisville, but to praise her. I've lived here for 14 years, and I'm amazed at the size of our town and the competency of our staff in Morrisville. I've had to deal with almost every department in the town, and have come away at the end of those dealings with pride that I actually live in the town of Morrisville. From the town manager who seems to keep the engine running smoothly, to all the employees, I've always been dealt with respect and courtesy. Specific departments that I've dealt with, indirectly I've dealt with the police department in the fact that I am very happy that they had a successful effort in moving traffic through Morrisville, or 54 and McCrimmon. Seems to be working very well right now. I've had to have 2 inspections, building inspections at my house in the last year, and what a great experience and competency I've seen there as well. I'm a little bit prejudiced about the Parks and Recreation Department in that I'm on the advisory board, but all citizens should be proud of the staff and the leadership of Jerry Allen. We have great greenways. We have great planned activities throughout the year and for all the people of Morrisville. I'm going to forget some departments if I go on, but suffice it to say that I'm proud of all the staff in Morrisville. Now the town council. I've not agreed with every council decision, but until recently I've accepted, at least for now, their decisions. But I'd like to ask one thing of the town council, and I don't think it's too much to ask, and that is for all the council members to listen to all the citizens of Morrisville, not just the moneyed people in Morrisville, and certainly not the moneyed people of Cary. Thank you.
Thank you. He was the only one who signed up. Was there anyone else who wished to speak tonight who did not sign up yet? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to the next item.